You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Everybody, welcome into the Brent Austen Show. We're live at FSCJ here on a Thursday. We've got a little basketball practice going on here for the FSCJ Manta Rays, the new nickname of FSCJ, and I'll tell you why we are here coming up in just a bit. Well, I can tell you right now, we're here for the Fort Agra High School 912 Invitational, which will take place today, and we're really excited about it as we'll have it on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network for 4 games today, 4 games tomorrow, and 2 games on Saturday. So 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. we got high school basketball today, which is pretty cool, and we're looking forward to getting that all set for you and ready to run for the first time ever. It'll be on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Back in Jacksonville here this week. Thanks for hanging out with us. And Bill Belichick is the big story around the sports world, as he is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. This is so bizarre. Just to say that is so bizarre that Bill Belichick is going to lead a college football team. And it's not like it's Alabama either. It's North Carolina, who's been just okay at football, obviously a basketball school. But there's a lot of things that go into the Belichick thing for me, and we're going to get to, along with a lot of Jags talk, of course. I got a Thursday night football game. Rams and Niners, just West Coast love there. And some other topics. We'll visit with basketball coach. We'll visit with Nick Morrow from UNF. He's going to stop over just around the corner as well. But the Belichick stuff is the dominating story because there's a domino effect here in Jacksonville of, okay, that takes him off the board. If Doug Peterson is let go, if the Jags reset, if Shad Khan decides to do that. And I think you have to continue to say if. It's actually a little bit uncomfortable at times talking about who's going to be the next coach while the coach is still here. And we have no idea if Shad Khan is going to make a move. I mean, we really don't. Nobody does. I know everybody out there is thinking it and probably wishing for it to happen and predicting it to happen. And trust me, I'm in the same boat. I'm predicting it to happen. But I also think Shad's done some interesting things over the years. So who's to say that he's definitely going to make a move at the head coaching position, the GM position, front office coaching staff, and the rest. We'll see what happens. But if he does, and this is where we talk about this part, Belichick becomes off the board now for them. And many people in Jags Nation think it's a good thing. I kind of think it's a good thing. I'm torn on the Belichick stuff because I could see how Belichick is maybe exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars need, and then I could also see how Bill Belichick's exactly not what the Jacksonville Jaguars need. It sounds like we might have Austin Lane. He's checking in from Tampa as we just kind of cross on the highway here this week and keep moving around. I don't think he can hear me, or can he hear me? Can you get me, Austin? All right, there we go. What's up?
Then not too much, man. I'm just chilling in the Marriott Hotel on the water. Got a nice workout in, but to kind of go with your point a little bit with Bill Belichick, yeah, I mean, I think it's good and bad. You know, it's the guy who could have came in and definitely changed the culture around and definitely kind of established, you know, some sort of plan, because I think that's what this franchise needs more than anything. Like, let the X's and O's fall where they may later, but I think you need a complete overhaul, and I think Bill Belichick could have, provided that. Now the question is how much does he have left in the tank? Obviously, he's up there in age. He's got a girlfriend who's 24 years old, so maybe he feels a little younger. Maybe he can go until his early 90s. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of torn, kind of like you are, I think, where I know he would have been a great culture guy here in Jacksonville, but at the same time, the age kind of leaves you a little leery because you had a guy in Tom Coughlin, which I think did it the right way. He got results right away. You go to the AFC Championship game, one play away from going to the Super Bowl and everything. And then after that, what happened? It kind of all went to. So I think it's good.
Yeah, good shout out to Marriott, by the way. If you need my points number, just let me know over there in Tampa. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, talking Bill Belichick, and you just brought up a lot of things. There's so many things to me. Here are the layers of this. First of all, Bill Belichick in college football, weird. Bill Belichick back to coaching. Okay, I think many people assume that could happen. Bill Belichick now not in the mix for any NFL team, including the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then I think there's an element here to the chances of Doug Peterson staying in Jacksonville. Did they just go up because Bill Belichick took this job? We'll get to that part a little bit later, and I'll tell you what I mean by it. But is that a possibility? Back to the whole culture thing. And is he exactly what this franchise needs and what we've been talking about? You know who he is, and he's got an MO, if you will. There's no guessing. But I think, Austin, can you make the case that sometimes his culture didn't seem like it was working, or started to fizzle out toward the end in New England? There were those reports. Remember that story in SI and other things between Brady and him and other people in the organization. Culture of winning, absolutely, but there was also this culture of, not fun, potential toxicity, all those other things. Was it the ideal culture, or were they just the ideal coach and quarterback to get through any of the mess that was going on by the end of it?
I mean, I get it, right? Danny Amendola has said this. Julian Edelman has said this. Gronk has said this, that, it wasn't necessarily a fun environment. But then watch the roast of Tom Brady and be very chummy together with Bill Belichick. So how bad was it truly then if you seem to still respect the guy? And I understand that it may not be most modern era NFL player, but if you win Super Bowls, man, I think it's all worth it. Now, maybe a lot of guys don't share my same mentality, but the resume speaks for itself for how much that he's won. And yeah, maybe it went bad at the end, but let's keep in mind, you lost Tom Brady. He goes to Tampa, wins another one. You kind of lost a lot of great players. I mean, I get there's only a coach can only do so much. And to be fair, they brought in the predecessor of Mac Jones to replace Tom Brady, and that didn't go well. Now, was that more of the culture? Was that more of Mac Jones? Well, we've seen Mac Jones here now in Jacksonville, so I think we can say it's probably a little combination of both.
Yeah, I think there's multiple layers of this, and just to here's what I say. Here's why he's the perfect guy, but not the perfect guy for Jacksonville right now. This is why I'm torn, Austin, because of all the things you just said. Right, you got to change. He's going to win. I mean, Tom Coughlin, he brought that back too, like you mentioned in 17. He knew how to win in the NFL. He won 2 Super Bowls. Knew how to win in Jacksonville, and he brought it back in 17. Boom, right away they won. You knew who they were. They had an identity, just like that. So all the things that I've suggested and written about and talked about for years and years. You do know that part. The negative side of that is we just experienced a guy that had a lot of control in the organization in Urban Meyer, and that did not work. And Bill Belichick would be that guy, Austin. So that's where I'm in between. I'm okay, you get the identity, you get who you are, you get the winning culture, it knows what it looks like. Jacksonville could use a little bit of that. Jacksonville could use a shakeup like that. Then on the other side, it's they don't need a guy that just controls the whole building and everything runs through him. And look what he's doing in North Carolina. He has set this whole thing up to look a certain way, right? They had to play by his rules. And good for North Carolina for doing it. We'll see if it works out. But if it doesn't work out, the whole thing goes. The whole thing's done. And that's what we saw. The whole thing collapsed. It was a house of cards here in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer. And he had control over a lot of the building, more than most other coaches had in the past. Now, because of his influence, I got the Miller Electric Center and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, he might have had too much control and things started to change. And all those relationship deals that I talk about, it started a little bit with Urban Meyer because he didn't give a damn about any of it. Inside the building, outside the building, he just a little bit was power hungry. I got to do it my way. And I think Belichick would probably bring a lot of that. And I get concerned about that because we just experienced it with Urban Meyer. And I saw what Doug Peterson and company had to try to fix.
Yeah, but
Austin.
the difference between Urban Meyer and Bill Belichick is that Bill Belichick has the NFL experience, and he's shown the blueprint of how to win championships. Urban Meyer had no resume when it came to the NFL. Urban Meyer got fired because he took control and, maybe he wasn't the nicest guy to be around, or, people didn't really like him in the building. Urban Meyer ended up losing his job because, well, number one, it was bad optics of you being in a bar, with another person, and that didn't look good. And then supposedly, kicking another player as well. So, I don't see Bill Belichick doing that. Now, will we see Bill Belichick at Taylor Swift concerts? Will we see Bill Belichick out in the spotlight with a young girlfriend? Sure. But, I don't think Bill Belichick's going to be the type of guy that on a Thursday night you go play an away opponent, and then that night you're seen in a bar just hanging out away from your team. I don't know about that. So while it can be similar situations in terms of you're going to hand it over, you're going to give them full control. I think one guy knows how to use that control and win championships, and the other guy was fans.
Yeah, and listen, fair point. Like that's why you can do this. You can make the argument. So but I don't know about this and everything else. It was an interesting thing with Belichick, man. Like I was torn on it because I'm saying all this stuff and it's like, okay, that kind of checks the box. But then I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's too late. That was another part of this. The thing about Coughlin coming back, it wasn't sustainable because it was a little bit late in the game. They were giving him the keys to the car, the EVP stuff. Nobody else was doing it around the league. I'm not telling you Coughlin was too old because he still had a ton of energy and everything else, but we know the relationship between player, all the PA stuff. You couldn't operate exactly the same way. I think Belichick would be able to do that a little bit better. I mean, obviously he's going to the college game, so he knows the younger player. I guess he's okay with that side of it. But it just does feel a little late in the game, right? You're trying to catch a last hurrah. It's like you were talking about yesterday on the show, signing a receiver late, right? Give me DeAndre Hopkins or one of these guys that still has a little something left in the tank. The risk with that is, do they have anything left in the tank? And I think that's the risk a little bit with Belichick. Although, if he's ready to do this whole dang reset at North Carolina, he must have a ton of energy still and ready to roll. But I would have been concerned about that here in Jacksonville, Austin, because it just felt a little bit, we're getting the downside of Belichick. We're getting the backside of Belichick. We're not getting the guy that won. And that was the problem with Urban Meyer. We didn't get the guy. I remember asking Sean Conn, I was like, did you get a different guy than you thought you were getting? And he answered it in a unique way in terms of the drama that came with Urban Meyer. But I've talked to a lot of people over the years since Urban Meyer left, and most people close to Urban Meyer, like, that was a different dude. Like, he had lost his fastball. And it not just all the other things, but he was aloof. He didn't look like he knew what he was talking about at the podium sometimes, all those different things. So I would just, again, Urban Meyer has scarred me for what Bill Belichick potentially would have been here late in his career, all the power. I know they're a little bit different, Austin, but those things would have factored in terms of that debate if we were to have that debate after this season.
Yeah, I just think that they're two different coaches, so I'm not going to compare them. I think with Bill Belichick as well, I think his philosophy and his style, I mean, I get every coach has an ego. I mean, you wouldn't be a head coach if you weren't. But it's also like, I don't want to say it's built on pettiness, but it's built, I feel like, on proving people wrong. Because if you studied Bill Belichick's career and you know, like, where he came from, look at all the players that he got from Cleveland that he brought to the Patriots. Simply because I think that Cleveland, maybe did Bill Belichick a little dirty, wanted to get a little. So, like, I feel like Bill Belichick went out of his way to try to stick it to the Cleveland Browns. Maybe went out of his way to try to stick it to the New York Jets every once in a while with free agency, who they brought in, who they traded for, all this stuff. I think now you have a Bill Belichick. Yeah, he's accomplished everything. He's been to the mountaintop. Do you want to go to the college landscape and change something up and set a precedent? More power. But I think you have a Bill Belichick right now that maybe is a little pissed off that he didn't get an opportunity last year. That feels like people are, maybe philosophy are of the old school, and they don't work in the modern NFL. But I also think that it makes Bill Belichick a little more hungry. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to North Carolina, busts his ass, and turns that program around. Just like I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick got another shot in the NFL, he turns an organization around, just because I feel like he is hungry. I feel like he wants to prove something. Everybody's saying, like, oh, so you guys just going to wayside?
Hey, let me just ask you something real quick before we hit to a break that I just asked social media and everybody in the chat and everybody else. Just simply this. If there was a job opening in Jacksonville in about a month, would you have wanted Bill Belichick, Austin?
As my top candidate? No.
Where does he fall on the list?
Probably 3 or 4.
So behind Ben Johnson, behind Mike Vrabel?
I think it's comparable to Ben Johnson, but yeah, for sure Mike Vrabel. I like Glenn too, man.
Okay.
But
you got some other guys on your list? Oh, you like Aaron Glenn? Yeah. I think Aaron Glenn, I think Liam Cohen's becoming a hot name as well, kind of that Ben Johnson type. So you got two different styles, right? You got Aaron Glenn, defensive guy. You hope for to be a culture guy. You don't know, he hasn't done it. You got Vrabel, the culture guy. Obviously, Belichick, culture, genius, all this stuff, Super Bowls. And then you got the two young guys with Ben Johnson and like a Liam Cohen, who's a hot name right now. I think Todd Monken should be thrown in the mix. I don't think his name is being thrown around a lot, but
I will say this, though, about Ben Johnson. I do like the fact that he's kind of come out and said, like, he's going to have his way of doing things, and he needs an organization to kind of buy into his philosophy a little more. It seems like a lot of coaches are doing this now, which I'm not mad at. And, you know, I think the biggest caveat with Ben Johnson is like, does he have, you know, the experience? Does he have the leadership to try to change a culture? Yeah, the guy can call plays. Yeah, the guy can design offenses, but can he lead men a la Dan Campbell? And I think he's been under Dan Campbell for a couple of years, so like, he's seen it himself, but can he branch off and do it himself? And I think the fact that he's going about himself saying, you know, here's what I need, here's what you need to abide by, or else I'm not coming. That's a good start because he's seen it work in Detroit, and I want him to bring that Detroit mentality if he's to come to Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's got the blueprint, right? So he wants to make sure that blueprint kind of coexists here in Jacksonville, and so that makes a lot of sense. You know, when I get into a bigger conversation about college and NFL coaches, the bottom line for me is the pool isn't very deep for both, and that's why all of a sudden we're seeing Scott Frost come back to UCF. We might see Dan Mullen. I don't even know if it's official yet this morning, but it looks like he's headed to UNLV back in the game. We're seeing Rich Rodriguez back to West Virginia. Is that and now we're seeing Bill Belichick to North Carolina. Is that a sign that there just aren't a lot of coaches out there? And are the Jags going to run into that a little bit here this offseason? I think there's a lot of potential hurdles here for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and does that mean those are better chances for Doug Peterson and company to stay in Jacksonville? Let's talk a little bit about that when we come back. Take a time out. We're live at FSCJ, the Brent Austen Show on a Thursday. We got a lot going on today. Obviously, Austin's got a fight. He'll tell us about that. He's not fighting, but he's cornering a fight. Tell us about that in Tampa this weekend. And we've got the Fortegra High School 9-12 Basketball Invitational. Look at the lineup of games. It starts at 2 o'clock. It's on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network only. We're not going on YouTube and Twitter and everything else, at least with these games to start. But you'll get Fleming Island and Riverside. These are 8 really good programs. 4 o'clock game is Nice against University Christian. Then on 6 o'clock, Bowles and Creekside. And the nightcap, Jackson, one of the top teams in the area, if not the best team in the area, against Tocoy Creek, upstart Tocoy Creek, coming into this thing undefeated at 6-0. That's the Thursday lineup. We'll have Friday action and Saturday action as well. And it's all in the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. You can find it on ActionNewsJax.com, the Action News Jax app, and Action News Jax now on your smart TV.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models, or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway, or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Okay, Jaguars All Access tonight, 7 o'clock. Just add one more thing to the mix. Why not, right? Tonight at String Sports Brewery in Springfield. And our guest tonight will be Evan Ingram, Jaguars tight end. And you see the cool story about the fine that he had, which isn't cool, from the Trevor Lawrence play. And then his charity that he supports for My Cause, My Cleats, and has a great relationship with, a great ambassador for, fans paid money toward that charity, and then he donated even more money toward the charity, and now they've created a scholarship for that charity. So pretty cool stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about it tonight on Evan Ingram. Hopefully I got all those details right. Brent Martineau here at FSCJ, Austin Lane in Tampa. And Austin, tell us why you're in Tampa, too, because you've obviously got some business to take care of this weekend. Time to get another win. This one, though, not with the gloves on.
Yeah. So I'm in Tampa. I'm going to corner one of my teammates, Ramon Taveras. He's going to fight a guy by the name of Davey Grant.
You sound great, by the way, but you got to back away from that camera so we can take you on the show, because Casey right now is not taking you because all we see is your beard.
Okay. Sorry. I was trying to get close so I can hear what's going on where you're at, because it sounds like you're in a submarine, but we're all good. Hey, do you see me?
There you go. You're looking better. I'm assuming that's why you might not have been taking
shout
it.
out to the acoustics in that gymnasium, man, because they are on point today.
Well, I could probably, now that you say that, I could probably pull the computer a little bit more in front of me so you can hear a little bit better because it's off to my side. So these are good things that you tell me about, but because it's really not too bad in here. There is a women's basketball practice going on, and they're kind enough to let us join. So you will hear me much better if I just even pull the computer like this, probably. How about that? Does that sound a little bit better for you?
Cooking.
Yeah, see. Hey, listen, we got to figure these things out sometimes. I mean, there's a lot going on here, technically, that we're even trying to play with and figure out for later today. All right, Bill Belichick is obviously the big story, and there's how will he do? How about this? Just how will he do? Do you have faith that Bill Belichick's going to, this whole new plan, this like 400-page layout, this business side, Mike Lombardi's going to be the GM? Oh, my goodness, if he had come to Jacksonville, that guy feels like he hates Jacksonville more than anybody over the years. He kills them like all the time. It would have been wild to see if he came from Jacksonville, but he had success with Belichick in the past. He's trying to get the band back together. So would the way he do this be the new way that everybody tries to do it, and will Belichick have success at North Carolina, a school that's had some success in football, but not a crazy amount?
Yeah, I mean, I think really Bill Belichick is going to be the pioneer here and kind of set the precedent a little bit. And you have to look at it more of like, not only are you going to be a coach, but you're also the CEO. Because, and he's alluded to this, we've talked about this, the NFL now and in college football, it's essentially kind of the same entity. You know, like when you bring money, the NIL deals, all this stuff, you know, players are kind of going into business for themselves now. You see it every single year in the transfer portal. You see it in these high-priced NIL deals. They're essentially NFL players. So, yeah, if you talk about bringing one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time to not only coach your team, but now kind of set a precedent in terms of bringing his own people in, having a separate staff for, you know, recruiting, and then the staff of coaching, and kind of Bill Belichick's the CEO. He's going to oversee it. I'll put my faith in Bill just because I don't think his story is going to end with him just absolutely failing at the collegiate level. Like, I don't think he wants his story to end like that. I think this guy's the ultimate competitor. I think this guy wants to win, and I think he's going to go out of his way, come hell or high water, to see it through. So, yeah, I think it's going to work pretty well in North Carolina. It comes down to recruiting, obviously. I'm not sure how much pull, you know, the name Bill Belichick has amongst the youth these days, but I think if he dedicates himself, yeah, I can see him winning.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to kind of project this because I don't know what to expect. I don't think anybody knows what to expect. I mean, he might hate this. Yeah. He might find out. He might find out like months in. This is a disaster. Love the idea of what he is doing and what he said about like running it like an NFL. Like you're going to be ready for the NFL. Like that part is going to be attractive. Does today's kid at 18, 19, 20 years old want to play for Belichick? Do they want to play for that style coach? They need a Dan Campbell kind of coach who can give you that hard-nosed stuff but also put his arm around you and love on you. I think that's really one of the questions here, Austin. Like, I don't know if today's player, today's young person wants to play for the Belichick. Who's like that? Who's like that right now in college sports? That you would be like, okay, I'm signed up to play for it. Saban felt like that, and now he's out. Is there anybody else like it in college sports right now? And even in basketball, have we seen those guys had to change and come around? I mean, Dan Hurley is a lunatic, so maybe he qualifies.
Yeah.
But is that going to be a problem, even if they've got the NIL money, even if they've got the promises of the NFL, or are those things good enough to say, hey, I'll go sacrifice the next couple of years and work my butt off, and it might not even be fun, but to get where I want to go? I
mean, is Kirk Ferentz still coaching, or did he retire?
He is still coaching. Yeah, he's still coaching.
So that's probably the Belichick comparison. Yeah, I mean, all about defense right now, not offense. Even though I guess Iowa's kind of coming up now a little bit in terms of their offense. And everything.
They are coming around on offense, yeah, a little bit.
It's about time, you know. It's 2024. It's good to have you, Iowa. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think the name really carries a lot of weight like Deion carries, just because like Deion, you know, the style, the swag. The social media, the marketing, all that stuff. Like, he's on a different realm than Bill Belichick is. But I don't think, you know, it's funny because you asked me this question 5 years ago without the NIL. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, coaches is everything, right? Culture has to be everything. Like, Nick Saban may not have been the best guy to play for, but if you're going to go to Alabama and start, guess what? You're probably going to the NFL. Now it's kind of different where you can have these great coaches. Doesn't really matter. Players going to go like where the money is or like where the playing time is. So I think if I'm Bill Belichick, it's almost probably the most opportune time to come coach college football, because like I don't think the culture and the coaching is the top priority anymore. Like obviously, like the culture from if you're going to start or not, like that's important. If the coach lies to you, all right, then deuces, you're out. But I think overall, it's not about how good of a coach you are or how nice you are. It's about, okay, what kind of packages do you have for me in the NIL thing? And I think Bill Belichick understands that. And I think that's what a lot of college teams are missing. It's not necessarily like, oh, we got the culture, we got no, it's how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah, that is true. I think it's fascinating. We talked about this a little bit, how fascinating it is that we couldn't. You take your 5 years, but I'd take my 5 months. 5 months ago, you're like, the NFL and college football couldn't be further apart, right? I mean, it just, guys want to leave college football to get to the NFL. I just did this story last year, I think, at the Combine. I think I'd asked Doug about it because of the Mike Caldwell firing and some of the hiring that they were doing. And we're like, hey, do people want to get out of the college game and get to the NFL because of NIL, because of transfer portal? And then when they got coaches like Jerry Mack, right, who was at Tennessee, I think it was, a running backs coach, and then came over to Jacksonville, and they got some of the guys that were leaving college come to the NFL. Hey, was that part of the reason why you came, is to get out of that college stuff? And the answer was, yeah, it was, or at least a little bit, had some influence. And now here we are, and Bill Belichick's going from the NFL to college, and he's saying, hey, it's more like it than it's ever been. It's more like the NFL than it's ever been. And the logic actually makes some sense, like him saying that. But nobody was thinking that way. It's like, how do we get the heck out of here? Because the college game is so screwed up compared to the way we knew it and what it was. And it might be the closest thing to the NFL from a business standpoint than it's ever been. Now, is that going to be the case with the way the style is and how you play? There's still a big gap. Belichick says he's going to close that gap. We'll see if he's able to do that stylistically and be successful. But it is just wild to me that it has changed that much in just a short period of time. Austin, the other thing about all of this to me, and I don't know if people are going to want to hear this, but I think when you take a guy off the board that's maybe available coaching this offseason and who you could potentially interview and would be a candidate for your job if it comes available here in Jacksonville, I wonder if the Belichick to UNC just made the odds of Doug Peterson staying in Jacksonville go up if you were making a wager.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure it goes up a little bit just because there's only so many candidates to go around, right? And there was a relationship there between the Khans and Bill Belichick, so it does make a lot of sense. But, I mean, I don't know. Was Bill Belichick their number one guy? I have a hard time believing that. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much it really knocks the odds, in favor of Doug Peterson. I still think, there should be a change at least. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, if I'm Shad Khan, because here's what I'm trying to picture. I'm trying to picture, Shad Khan's a guy that doesn't want to talk a lot, and that's fine. I respect that. He's not a Jerry Jones. More power to you. But when the season's over, you get in front of the cameras. You stare down the barrel and you address what happened in the season, expectations, all this stuff. And all we have to go off of right now in terms of comments from Shad Khan is what we heard in the preseason, saying how it was the best team that he's ever assembled. Okay, fast forward now, 17, 18 weeks later, you're going to be in front of the camera. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? I was wrong? Or are you going to make a decision and be like, hey, I was told one thing and it didn't work out? Like, I have a hard time believing as a businessman, as a CEO, when you're told one thing, it doesn't come to fruition. I don't want to say you look a little foolish, but you look in the wrong from having said it. And now you got to stand in front of everybody and say, what? Yeah, I guess I was wrong about that. But guess what? We're going to reload and do it all again. I have a hard time believing that's the way it's going to go down for Shad Khan.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not predicting that he's going to keep his job. Not yet, at least. But I I'm trying to think all around it, right? Everybody's got this. There's this overwhelming belief that Doug's gone, Trent's gone, everybody's gone, reset in Jacksonville. There's good reason for that belief. I mean, I would think if you asked Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke, they would buy into that belief right now. They know how the NFL works, right? But the more you look at this, when you take a Belichick out, and if you think Belichick could have been a candidate, if you take Vrabel, if he's in the mix potentially, if we think so, I mean, then it goes to Ben Johnson. And then the other ones start to get a little bit, okay, is that really the guy? Is that the fit? Are they going to go there? I mean, you can talk yourself into Liam Cohen. He's a Rhode Island guy. I'll take him. We'll try it. Whatever. I can talk Todd Monken into it. But I'm not telling you they're high on people. Like, they might get interviews, but are they going to be, like, hired this cycle? Who knows? So what I'm a little bit cautionary of right here, Austin, is this Ben Johnson or bust for the Jacksonville Jaguars? And now let's start playing that out a little bit. He's going to be coveted. He's obviously got demands. He does not seem like he's in a rush to just jump into a coaching situation. Now, you got to be careful to pass up too many coaching jobs in the NFL. How many times does it come around? And then on top of that, if there's going to be some competition for you now. And if there is the competition, if you don't do this early, he doesn't decide early, and he kind of drags it along, you could be talking about a guy that might not be available until late January, early February, and then you're left at the altar potentially. So there's a lot of risk, I think, that comes with the idea of Ben Johnson or bust is what I'm getting at.
I mean, if that's where the Jaguars are at, like, I don't know. I mean, are they interested in Mike Vrabel? I feel like if they're interested in Bill Belichick, you should be at least a little interested in Mike Vrabel. But I don't know. I mean, if it is Ben Johnson or bust, then yeah, you definitely put yourself in quite the predicament. But the same thing with the Bill Belichick situation. Okay, so let's assume that Bill Belichick doesn't go to UNC. Let's say that he wants to coach in the NFL again. Okay, fine. Well, I get he's got a relationship with the Cons. But who's to say maybe Bill Belichick wants to go to Dallas over Jacksonville? Maybe Bill Belichick doesn't want to, have to play outside of Jacksonville for a couple of years. Maybe Dallas is a more enticing gig. Maybe Chicago was a more enticing gig. So Bill Belichick goes there. Now all of a sudden maybe Ben Johnson goes to Dallas. Maybe Ben Johnson goes to Chicago and Jacksonville misses out on them there as well. Then what are you going to do? I mean, what, are you going to call Doug Peterson back and say, hey, sorry, we messed up. Come back and, coach us again? Like, no. Like, here's what I think. I think if you're Shad Khan and you're the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and you aren't happy with how the season's gone, then you have to be committed no matter what. Like, all right, we need to go in a new direction. It can't be, well, let's see what happens first, and then maybe no, because then you almost it's gonna linger, and like you're almost doing somebody a favor saying, okay, well, choice A, B, and C were gone, but I guess we got to settle. Like, no, don't settle, right? Like, and I get it. You can say that same thing about the new coach coming in. Do you settle for somebody? Well, then go out there, do your research, and find somebody. But the last thing I want this organization to do is be on the fence right now whether you want to keep your head coach or not. Like, I think the decision's already been made. Like, if I'm Shad Khan, I should know already, is Doug gone or is he staying? Simple as that. And I don't know. You don't know, Brent. We'll see, because he keeps a very tight circle. But I don't want to have this thing where it's like, oh, well, Bill went over to UNC. Oh, we lost Ben Johnson. I guess we'll keep Doug. No, there is no I guess. Stay committed to it. Either you want him or you don't. But, don't teeter-totter and see how the landscape shakes out.
Yeah, listen, I agree with your statement. I think he should know right now what he's doing. And the reason why is because even if you beat the Jets this week and you just beat Tennessee, it doesn't matter. You haven't beaten anybody. This is why I said your decision, if you're shot, should have been made up by the bye week after Detroit, because that's where it should have ended. Because you still, and maybe Houston you could add in, but you haven't beaten anybody worth a damn in the last calendar year. You've lost 15 out of your last 19 games now, and all you've beaten is Tennessee, Carolina, the New England Patriots, and the Indianapolis Colts. That's it. So you had nothing to really hang your hat on if you're those guys. So I agree with you. I think Shad should have already made up his mind. The difference with the Belichick one is you would know pretty early if Belichick's interested because he's out of the gig. So you can already start doing what you were doing with Urban Meyer. Remember when they started the Urban Meyer hunt, that the conversations with him started in early December. This time, they were already having conversations at this point. They could have done that with Belichick as well if their job was open, right? You're not going to do that if your job's not open. So the Well, I guess when on hindsight, now that I say that, I want to make sure my timetable's right. I think Marone still had the job, but I still think they could go look around, or at least talk to Urban Meyer. I think it came out later, like it wasn't public, but it came out later that they had kind of talked to Urban's folks or Urban himself in early December, if I'm not mistaken, even though Marone still had the job. So they might have already done that with Belichick, too. Like, they could have done that in November, I guess. You're going to keep that pretty tight if you're doing that because it might look bad when you already got a guy in place. But my guess is even with Ben Johnson's people and other things like that, you kind of get an idea who's going to be interested or who's not. The Ben Johnson one is just really fascinating to me because there are not a lot of job openings already around the league, which means people are going to be vying for the Vrabels of the world and maybe the Liam Cohens of the world and the Ben Johnsons of the world. And then the list falls off. Like, there's a sharp fall off. And so are you going to win that sweepstakes? What if it does drag out? Indianapolis turned out okay, I think, right? In Josh McDaniels, was it the recent cycle that they left him? And then they got Steichen. Is that how that happened? Or is that a long time ago now? Who did they get when McDaniels kind of took the job and then said, no, I don't want the job?
Yeah.
How long? I forget now. How long ago was that? Maybe that wasn't Steichen. That would have been too recent.
Yeah.
But you got to go. That's my point. And I'm not telling you Ben Johnson would leave you at the altar like that, but that's the point of it. It's like if your guys go, it's like, who are you getting? And you just mentioned, hey, you got to do your homework. You got to have other people. You got to have fallback plans. You got to feel good about those plans. And that's not a conversation you have like right now. Those are conversations as the owner of the football team you should be having, like even coming off last year. You should already know and have that envelope in the drawer, right? And be like, okay, hey, here's our list. Here's what we like. Here's what this could look like if things don't go right in 2024 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. As much as you don't want to look like that, I think you kind of have to in these situations to have a long list running of potential candidates. And then others emerge and all those other things. But it's the Ben Johnson stuff. There's so much around Ben Johnson. I think it's risky, I guess is the point I'm getting at here, that you might not get the guy. And if you don't get the guy, you better like the guy you get.
Yeah. No, without doubt. Wasn't the guy that replaced McDaniels, wasn't that the guy that went to Carolina then? He got fired from Indianapolis, goes to Carolina. Is that Reich? Frank Reich?
Oh, yeah, it was Reich. Yeah, that's okay. Right. Yeah, Frank Reich. So that was the earlier one, which, by the way, didn't end up working out, right? But it looked at the time it was going to work out. It looked actually pretty good in year one, if I remember correctly.
But I'm curious, though, I get Ben Johnson's the hottest name right now. Who was the hottest name last year? Because, obviously we weren't in the sweepstakes for a new coach. So, I don't even remember.
Oh, yeah. What was the hottest name last year? I was thinking the last cycle for the Jags. Like, you had Doug and Caldwell, not Mike Caldwell, the old Indy coach Caldwell, that were like really guys the Jags went after early on, right? That made a lot of sense. But Doug was available. And that's why it could take so long, too, for the Jags, because they got to feel out the process. They talked to Doug early on in the process, and it took like 40-something days to interview all these different people. And then they got back to Doug in part because they didn't feel like somebody else was stealing them away, or they had to move quick. If you remember how that all went down, we were like, why didn't they just make this move like 7 days in? Unlike the Urban Meyer search, Shad Khan really wanted to take his time with this and really gather a lot of intel. So it's funny how the different ways this has happened in Jacksonville with Shad Khan. Which way will he do it this time? Will he move fast? Will he move slow? Will he interview a lot? Will he really target a guy? Like, he's done it different ways over his tenure as the Jaguars owner. As for last year's hot name, who are the rookie coaches right now in the NFL? There must not have been as much movement last year in the NFL.
Okay. Or maybe 2 years ago then, because like I said, we've been kind of it's been the last topic of our conversation
Mayo
the past couple years.
Mayo took over for Belichick.
Okay.
But that was kind of a slide him in, right?
Like Ryan's took over. Was Ryan's I guess they slid him in as well, but was Ryan's a hot name?
Oh, D'Amico Ryans? I think he was a pretty hot name. I think it was a pretty good name. Yeah, so that was 2 years ago now, so that was one.
I just didn't know if there's any guy like Ben Johnson, where it seems to be unequivocally the top guy, hands down.
Yeah, you got me thinking. Did Canales just get the job this year or was it last year? I think he got it last year in Carolina. Has he been there 2 years? What other jobs were open?
I mean, I remember Dable was a big name.
Oh, Dan Quinn last year was a pretty good name. So Washington got him. There was a lot of movement last year. Oh, McDaniel, the guy from Baltimore, not a hot name, but they went and got him. All of a sudden, he emerged and went to Seattle, the Baltimore defensive coordinator. So now they're starting to come to me a little bit more. But even you take Steichen and Gannon, the guys who went to Arizona and Indianapolis a couple years ago, don't feel like they were hot names.
Correct.
Didn't feel like it, right? So, so you can go either way. The hot name doesn't matter. Get the right guy.
Correct.
Now, are those guys the right guy? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's who unequivocally is the right guy right now in the NFL of a recent hire. You would say DeMeco Ryans, and I would agree. I think he's going to win He's going to win back-to-back AFC South titles. He's changed them. He's made them good on defense. He's paired with a nice young quarterback. So I would say the way they flipped that around in Houston, they would be probably at the top of my list if you look at recent hires. Is Steichen a good coach? I've heard very good things about him, that he's a really good coach. But I also don't know if he's won enough yet to really buy into, okay, he's definitely the guy, right? They didn't make the playoffs last year. They lost a chance to do it right at the end, and it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs this year. Somewhere along the way, he had to sign off on Anthony Richardson, and that hasn't really turned out quite yet. Gannon's doing a nice job in year 2 in Arizona, but still wouldn't buy into, oh, my gosh, yeah, look at that. Look what he's doing. Mike McDaniel, I don't know, man. I'm not sure he's long-term, going to win in Miami, even with this offense they've got. The guy the retread guy is Sean Payton, and he's doing a hell of a job, quite frankly, in Denver, right? So, I mean, you take DeMeco Ryans and you got Sean Payton. I know there's a litany of other
you got Kevin
coaches.
O'Connell.
O'Connell, yeah. O'Connell's actually the home run. And O'Connell was the late in the game guy, right, a couple of years ago. He was the one you had to wait for the Super Bowl. Came out mid to late January. I think late January was that in the Jag cycle? That was in the Jag cycle. Yeah, it was. When people they could have got O'Connell, and Minnesota targeted him, get the McVay guy, and they were like, "Well, wait." And it came out right before the Super Bowl, right before the NFC Championship or something like that, that he was going to be the guy in Minnesota. They waited their turn, and they got. If you remember that cycle of coaching when Jags got Peterson and they got O'Connell, it was a slow played cycle, Austin. It was it took until mid to late January, almost the third week of January, if I remember, for the dominoes to start to fall on who was getting who, which was a very slow cycle as I remember it, and remember that being a conversation point. So, yeah, I mean, I don't. Other than DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton right now, and O'Connell, I'm not sure. I'm slam dunk. Oh, yep, that was it. They made him. In fact, the 2021 coaching stuff. I think I saw a tweet on this recently. I think everybody's out or on their way out, other than O'Connell, which is just crazy. It's just crazy the way this NFL works. Hey, Bowles has done a pretty good job in Tampa too. I think we should give him credit. But again, that's another one of those retread guys. Does that? Watching Peyton and Bowles, seeing the success of Tom Coughlin in the past, does that lend you to think the Vrabel stuff could really work, right? And because of all those factors, he knows what it takes to win. He'll learn a little bit, and that's what we were hoping with Doug too. And by the way, Doug worked for a couple of years. Let's be honest. So maybe that is the kind of the model that now Schott is going to look at in trying to figure out, okay, what can work the best.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about Vrabel, and I've said this many times before, what he was able to do with the Titans roster that didn't really, bring anything to the table set aside from Derrick Henry and a pretty solid defense. But once again, I think that defense was a reflection of Mike Vrabel. It should be studied and should be celebrated, because it wasn't like they had the elite quarterback to help carry him to the playoffs a couple times. Ryan Tannehill, played his best ball in Tennessee, but he was by no means an elite guy. So I guess the intrigue with Vrabel comes what you're getting, number one. I think it's the safest floor. But number two, the intrigue comes from well, what do you do when you give him actually a pretty talented roster with, we hope a talented quarterback in Trevor Lawrence? Like, what is that going to look like then? So, and, toughness will never be in question. So that's why those are some of the attributes that I like about Mike Vrabel is the fact that, man, I think you know what you're getting. And do you want that? Do you want kind of the sure thing, if you will, the safe pick? Or do you want to go again and swing for the fences and get an Urban Meyer type? And I don't think Doug Peterson's really swinging for the fences. Doug Peterson, I felt, was like a safe pick too, but obviously we're wrong about that one.
Hey, how different is Vrabel than Peterson? If you had to stack coaches, wouldn't you kind of say Peterson's a better coach than Vrabel?
Just because he won a Super Bowl?
Yeah, he did win a Super Bowl.
So did Mike McCarthy. How good of a coach is he?
Okay. Well, I would say, I guess in the same conversation, would you say he's better than Vrabel?
So I'm going to say this. I would take Vrabel every single day, twice on Sundays over Mike McCarthy. And that was before McCarthy even went to Dallas. Yeah, go ahead and give me Vrabel. Listen, when you had at the time one of the greatest quarterbacks, in the league, if not the best quarterback in the league, and you only went to one Super Bowl, I don't know. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. I get the flaws of it. I would just say overall his coaching record is 172, 110, and 2, which is really good. Now his postseason is only 11-11, but if you are 60% winning in the NFL, that is a really good record.
What is Mike Vrabel's record?
Let's just check. Hang on. Give me a second. I thought Doug was around 50-something%, but now that's going to be skewed after this stint this year. 54-45. So, again, good 55%, and a smaller sample, but 2-3 in the postseason.
With Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. No, you're right. He didn't have those quarterbacks. He did have the best back in the league, MVP kind of back, but I know it's not the quarterback. I get it. I'm just kind of talking it out. I don't know if I disagree with you. I just think it's a debatable thing. Statistically, I would also say about McCarthy, yeah, he should have done more. And he should do more with that offense, too, and that talent. He hasn't been able to win a playoff game yet. I think Doug is a different story. Doug, it gets back to being sustainable. Doug can kind of have these highs. Let's be honest, 22 was a high for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That wasn't just 9-8. That felt better than 9-8. And obviously the Super Bowl in Philly, but can't sustain it. And his record now is flipped on the other side. It's 62, 63, and 1. But in his postseason, he's 5-3, so he's got a better record in the postseason. But this year has certainly hurt his. His numbers were pretty good, Austin, until this year, from a winning percentage standpoint. So I guess that'd just be my question. It's are you getting a similar guy? And I think the answer is you're getting a similar guy. You're just hoping it clicks a little bit different, right? And works a little bit different. And you're getting a defensive culture guy versus maybe an offensive guy. Would be the differences between Doug and a Vrabel.
Yeah, I think so. But also, it's definitely the culture thing. But I forgot because once again, I should probably know this. How did it end in Tennessee? I know, I feel like it was mutual. But was there a bad feeling with Vrabel? That's why they got let him go. What was the reason?
Well, remember we had Steve Lakeman on, and there were concerns with Vrabel in Tennessee that he wanted more power. And I think the reason for that is the John Robinson relationship was good. That's what it sounds like. The Robinson relationship when he was is it John Robinson? I think it's John Robinson. When he was the GM. Yeah. And so that was good. And then they changed him out, Rand Carthen, they put him in. And what happened when they did that is the owner also gave a little bit more power, it looked like, on the structure to Rand Carthen, who was the new GM, instead of Vrabel. That's the way I understand it. That's the way it's kind of been explained to me. Now, we're not in the weeds there, so who really knows? But I think that's what led to, hey, we're going to move on. Some of it was power struggle. I think a little bit of it, Austin, if you felt Tennessee last year, got a little stale as well. Okay, are they really going? Have they peaked? with Vrabel, and are they going to be able to sustain this and move forward through the next deal? But I think a lot of it had to do with vision, philosophy, power within the organization when they changed out the general manager.
Okay, gotcha.
The couple of comments, by the way, anybody but Balky, Vrabel all day over Peterson. I do think some of these things are just anybody but these guys, right? A lot of people are just like, okay, we just need a change. And I think that's kind of the point what I was saying in Nashville. I think they got to the point with Vrabel was like, okay, listen, guy's done a good job, right? But I think we need to go in a different direction if we're going to get here. And I think there's some of that in Jacksonville right now. And it just happened really fast. Like it wasn't a slow decline. It was just a fall off the cliff decline here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think my big argument, though, Brent, about that is if you look at what Vrabel had at his disposal to coach against, it's like, all right, well, did he ever really – and I don't have the record in front of me. I don't have the season by season in front of me. So I'm sure there was a season that went bad for the Tennessee Titans, so he got fired. But for the most part, what I remember about Vrabel being in Tennessee is, like, I felt like they overachieved every single season. Like, I never really had him, like, making playoff runs. I never had him, like, winning the division. Like, Derrick Henry is a great running back. All right, I got it. And the great running backs, Saquon Barkley right now in Philly, can do monumental things for you. So I understand that. But I always felt like every single year Mike Vrabel overachieved with what he had on his roster. I see what you have in Jacksonville, and I thought last year they underachieved a little bit. And then obviously this year, I mean, is exhibit A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, you have a great talent on paper, but what have you done with it? You know, so, like, I have a hard time believing, like, if Vrabel was here with the talent that you have, it would go 3 wins, maybe 4 wins total. Like, I have a hard time believing Vrabel would allow that to happen.
Yeah, it's a fair point. By the way, his record, he was 9-7 and 9-7 the first 2 years, which is ironic because so is Malarkey. Malarkey got fired. Yeah. Then he was 11-5, 12-5, and then it was 7-10 and 6-11. Okay. Austin, that got him out of there. Yeah. Basically, it started to go downhill. 7-10 started to decline a little bit out of the playoffs. 6-11, same type of deal. But even last year, like, they were worse than a 6-win team. And remember, his departure actually is very much kind of like what we might see in Jacksonville with Peterson. Because they faded down the stretch, remember, and collapsed and lost the division 3 years ago. So 2 years ago, like Vrabel's second to last season. And the Jags ended up winning the division, come back and do it. Well, that happened at Jacksonville last year. And then 6-11, Vrabel got fired. Jags obviously sit right now at 3-10. So really the arc of Vrabel and the arc of Peterson are very similar in that respect, without the idea of going 12-5 and 11-5 and 3 straight years of playoffs. Vrabel obviously had more of that in Tennessee than Peterson did because it's just been a short stint, 3 years as of now. One other thing I want to just, before we take a break here, I want to mention there's some comments. Vrabel, when we win a championship, says YB400. Interesting how high people are on Vrabel in that respect. Some folks were commenting, and now I've lost it, about, hey, if you take out the 13-3 in Philadelphia, what's Doug's record? Or, hey, one big win, which, by the way, was way more than one big win in Philadelphia for Doug. It was a big win with the Super Bowl. It was a big win here in Jacksonville, too. But you can't caveat it. Like, you can't he did that. Like, there are a lot of teams in the league that don't go to the playoffs. There are a lot of teams that can't win playoff games. The Jags have actually had a little bit of a run, and when you go to the playoffs and win a playoff game, like, that's better than half the league in the last 3 years. So you can't just say, oh yeah, well, you take this away. Nah, you can't do that. Like, that's unfair to do. That's part of the resume. And so I just want to, again, it's one thing to want to change. I just think the resume is what the resume is. And part of that resume is Doug Peterson flipped it around in Jacksonville from a bad culture from Urban Meyer. And in year one, he got him into playoff contention. And part of his story will be back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in 2 decades. Now, part of that story will also be a collapse at the end of the year because they should have had more than 9 wins. And then it will be why can't they ever win a game this year and the last calendar year? So there's a lot to the story. You just got to tell the whole story is my point when it comes to Doug Peterson. Because, listen, I'm not taking away 2022. That's for damn sure. That's what I always said about 2017. The last whatever years had been miserable. But, man, 2017 was important for all of us to be able to get 2017. You don't just take away those good years. You just want more of them here in Jacksonville. All right, more of this conversation and more NFL talk and college talk. What about Mullen and Rich Rod and those guys going back to the college game? Very interesting, Austin, but they come with demands. So I want to get into that a little bit. And then we're also going to talk a little basketball coming up next with David Jones, the head coach of the Riverside Generals, because that's one of our games. Fleming Island and Riverside, they will play here today at FSCJ for Integra High School 912 Basketball Invitational, and you can watch it on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. We'll visit with Coach right after this on the Brent Austen Show. Welcome to Everbank Stadium. We call the stadium the bank. Here inside the Jaguars locker room, this is called the Vault. The Vault is a special place on game days. You can feel the energy and excitement as the Jaguars get ready to take the field. And Everbank has made a way for Jaguars fans to be a part of the action. Each home game, Everbank will select a winner and a guest to be a part of the Shadows. Be there up close and personal when the Jaguars leave the Vault to take the field. Not only that, the Vault Lounge provides a VIP pregame tailgate experience. High-end food, beverages, music, and more. Want a chance to be part of a VIP experience at a Jaguars game? Enter today at everbank.com/shadows, and you could find yourself in the shadows with the Jaguars.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242. You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing. Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, welcome back to FSCJ, the Brent and Austin Show on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. There's a look at our Fortegra High School 9-12 invitational lineup. That's the bracket, and we've got a 2 o'clock game with Fleming Island and Riverside. That's going to tip this thing off, and, let's talk to Coach right now from the Riverside Generals. We've been trying to get some of the coaches on during the last couple of weeks, and we are going to talk to David Jones from Riverside right now here on the show. Brent Martineau back at FSCJ, where in the background actually is the wrapping up of the women's basketball practice, and at 2 o'clock will be tip-off between the Generals and the Golden Eagles from Fleming Island. Hey, Coach, I don't know if Coach is still on. There he is. I think Coach still has us. How you doing, Coach?
Good morning. I think they have my mic muted.
You'll be okay. I think we can hear you. I can hear you, so hopefully that's a good thing.
Good morning.
Good morning. I think we just have the audio for you, which is certainly okay. And, you guys are probably packing up the bus here shortly and heading over to FSCJ here off Beach Boulevard in the South Campus, right?
Yes, we're scheduled to pull out about noon, anywhere from noon to 12:15.
All right, well, tell us about your squad. What are you expecting from your guys today against the good Fleming Island team?
Yes, I mean, we're a young team, but we have one of our leaders on the team is a senior Florida State signing in football, Tayshawn Gelsey. So
Coach, sounds like you're in school right now, which means the hallways don't always do well with the phone call. Maybe take a step left or right and we can get you back on. But I know those walking those halls, the connection doesn't usually go too well. But hopefully you can hear us again. Tell us a little bit about Tayshawn Gelsey and the rest of your team. We'll try it again. Can you have us? Yeah, it looks like we're not getting Coach. So if you can get in a better spot, Coach, we'd love to get you on there. I can see a little bit. How about now? We'll try one more time. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's working for us. So, Coach, we'll try to get you on. If not, I don't want to hold you up too long, and we'll see the Riverside Generals over here at FSCJ in just a little bit. And maybe we'll talk to you after the game today on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Once again, I knew sometimes in those schools it's tough to get great connection for good reason. Got to keep the kids off the phone. But we want to get the coaches on the phone. Brent Martineau here at FSCJ. We'll get Austin Lane back in. We probably told him he'd be off for this segment, and now we'll get him back in here on the Brent and Austin show as we continue to talk a little bit of football and everything else, including Bill Belichick's been a big story, obviously, throughout the sports world today, and also Dan Mullen headed to UNLV. Rich Rodriguez looks like he's going back to West Virginia. Why are all these coaches, one, getting back in it, but two, some of them going back to the places they were? Really interesting. That part of it for me is you get Scott Frost going back to UCF, get Rich Rod going to West Virginia. It's like, okay, Rich Rod moves on, and then you're West Virginia, try to find the answers, and you don't. You're like, wait a minute, this guy was pretty good when we had him. UCF's like, Scott Frost was pretty good when we had him. Maybe we should go back there and try to find that guy to come back because for whatever reason, it's a pretty good match. Very interesting as we welcome back Austin Lane to the show. Brent and Austin. Austin's out in Tampa, by the way. Nice little background you got there in the hotel room. It's like some blue sky or something.
Yeah.
That's all I can make out.
It's like a sky blue paint. I don't know what it actually is. It's like, what do you call that? It's an interpretive.
Oh, interpretive. Very good.
What's like that art thing where it's like, it's not interpretive. I forgot like what the name of it is. Somebody in the chat can probably say it, Brent, 'cause I doubt your culture enough to know it. But it's it's like a bunch of shapes and dots and everything, and like you look at it and you kind of like make your own interpretation. There's a name for it. I do
like that. I like that art. Yeah. I don't need the name of it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Hey, why the heck are guys going back to the college game? Why are they going back to the place they've been? What's up with the Rich Rod stuff? Dan Mullen comes out of the booth to go back, but obviously Frost and Rich Rod are very similar in the fact of going back to the place they were at, and will it work a second time around?
Will it work a second time around? That remains to be seen. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Like, I want to say that it would, just because they know the university, they had success there, so you think they could kind of reinvent that a little bit. But I think the reason why you're seeing these coaches, step out of the booth and go back now, because it's almost like the Tony Montana effect. You want to have as much money and as much power as possible. And right now, the way the college football landscape is, with the NIL, with the recruiting, with coaching, like, coaches have more power than ever. So I think that's why the coaches are getting back into it again, because they can have a lot more control. Like before, it was dealing with the NCAA, dealing with the president, the AD, boosters, all this stuff. You're kind of playing second fiddle for a lot of these guys. Now it's like, oh, I'm in charge of everything, because if you want to have success, you better let me run it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nostalgia sells, says Chad. It doesn't usually translate to wins, though. I mean, I know there have been other examples of this, and I mean, maybe is it one of the most recent examples? Did Snyder step away at Kansas State for a while? Did he go away and then come back? I feel like he did, and then like they didn't do anything, and then he came back and they ended up winning. I want to say that might have been the case at Kansas State. I can't remember now. I know he was really old when he was done there. But he was a guy for a long time that was there with the Kansas State, and then I feel like he went away and then came back. But so I guess it could work. At least brings you back to a certain bar, maybe like sort of a certain level. And I don't know if it'll be enough, but I just think it's fascinating. I mean, listen, the Scott Frost one makes a lot of sense to me. Like I like it. It's not like I'm hating on it. I just think it's fascinating that you kind of go back to your own recycle, retread coach, but they know what it's like there. I think Hamby said this about UCF. They know what it takes to win there. They know the community. They know the people. They know the surroundings. It worked for them. They tried to bring it somewhere else. It either couldn't work or it did work. But when they went and got somebody else to replace you, that didn't work, or not well enough. So I kind of like the idea of bringing the guy home. We'll see if it works at those two places, West Virginia and UCF. What about Dan Mullen, man? I mean, Dan Mullen back in the mix at UNLV? Dan Mullen to UNLV? Like, I don't know. I just feel that's an interesting one.
Yeah, maybe I didn't see what happened. So did they fire their coach at UNLV, or did he go someplace else? Because they had success.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah. The only reason I knew the job was open is because Dan Mullen's going to it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, because UNLV wasn't a bad team this year. So actually, a lot of those guys when I was in Vegas, because like I guess they kind of like use the Apex every once in a while. I don't know where I was training at, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good situation. They were a pretty solid team this year, and once again, Dan Mullen, a guy where I feel like UNLV hasn't really been on the map per se in terms of football. So you bring kind of a familiar face, a name, and once again, in terms of recruiting now and everything, having more power, why not?
Yeah, I don't know if it will happen or not. We'll see if he'll be successful at UNLV. He's a good offensive mind. He doesn't seem to like anything else that goes around it. Like, is he the recruiting stuff? Does this help out a guy like Dan Mullen, who isn't a fan of that, and now you're just free agency? Is it easier to not have to pound the pavement for the recruits when you can just build up your NIL? I guess like the story out of UNLV is say, okay, hey, I'm going to come back and do this, but you've got to pony up your NIL money. You've got to pony up your investment. You've got to have a bigger pool to play with than everybody else in the conference. And he feels like if he's positioned that way, now we've got some money to deal out. So like you said earlier, right, there's this different, that structure is so different that it's almost appealing in a weird way. There's so many things that would detract from it, the way we know football, but in a sense, it might even appeal because you don't have to go chase and miss on the 3-star recruits, the 2-star recruits all over the country. Instead, you're just like, hey, pay them out. If it doesn't work, you move on. I guess that part's appealing to some. Mullen kind of really fits it because the story out of Florida, well, he just didn't like the recruiting trail. And if you looked at the recruiting numbers, it kind of told the story.
No, exactly. And that's got everything to do with it, right? Because if you were 10 years ago, if you're a college football coach, yeah, it's the X's and O's, but so much more came with that job. You had to make sure everyone was going to school. Then you had to pound pavement for half the year to go get these recruits, go sit at the tables with the parents, try to, coax them to letting their child come play for you at the university. It's a lot of time, effort, and energy, and now I feel like the way the landscape is in college football, it's okay. We have so much money in the bank. We pay these guys to transfer over here. Maybe we pay a couple, high school recruits to come here as well, but it takes a lot of the burden off you, and it allows you to focus more on that kind of that CEO, and then the X's and O's route as well, where, yeah, I think it's enticing to any coach that's out of the game that wants to come back now and not have to travel half the year in, the middle of nowhere trying to find an offensive lineman who plays, 7-on-7 at a small school.
Yeah, here's the deal. I think Dan Mullen's a really good, in-game coach, X's and O's coach. He's good. Look what he did that year in Florida. Look what their offense did. So he takes that to what you would consider a lower level. Now, there are a lot of good coaches at lower levels. So just because you're at the bigger level doesn't mean you're a better coach than the other guy. But if he can actually coach these guys up in the X's and O's, he might have a chance to do really well. Now, he's still going to get good football players. So how do you accumulate good football players? How do you acquire those football players? That's really changed. That's the model that's changed a little bit. I'm looking at a headline on ESPN about Belichick, and it says, sickened by the politics of the NFL, Belichick aims for a college restart. That's really fascinating to me because I don't think of the NFL as politics. I would almost think a college has a little more politics feel to it. Sports has politics to it in general. I mean, it just does happen. But seeing that title is pretty interesting, and it actually has me spinning a different way on the Belichick stuff. Do you think these old guys are a little bit tired of the player having too much power? The one thing about college still is you can still have the power. You know what I mean? Even if you're paying the guy, even if you're paying a quarterback, whatever, yeah, okay, he's got a little say, but he's not a lot of say. You play with Aaron Rodgers, you play with these $50 million plus quarterbacks, the Burrows, maybe the Trevor Lawrences, if they want to have power, they've got power. They're making so much more than you, Austin. They are so important to the franchise. You're so invested to those kind of players. And it's not just the quarterbacks. Every position now is other than running backs, feels like it's plus $15 million per year for your star players. Is that the turn that is going to get people a little bit away from the NFL and maybe into the college game? Because at least you can control what you can control. And if I'm going to go down, I'm doing it my way, not this guy who thinks he knows more than me and he's been in the league for 4 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're talking about how NFL players operate. Well, isn't college athletics the same thing now? Where, if you even say something wrong to a college athlete, that college athlete can transfer to someplace else and probably make more money.
True.
So, I don't know if that's the case when it comes to players. I think it's more of relationships in the NFL compared to college. It's similar, don't get me wrong, but the NFL, it kind of seems I've said it before. I've said it many times on this show. The best candidates aren't coordinators in the NFL. The best candidates never become position coaches in the NFL because it's all about who you know. Now, college, yeah, probably the same thing a little bit, but if you want to talk politics, we have politics here in Jacksonville, right? And it came down to Press Taylor and Doug Peterson. Who's calling the plays? Why is Doug Peterson calling the plays? That's an example of some kind of politics. So I think when you look at, I don't think it's necessarily the players that Bill Belichick might be fed up with. Maybe it's just the new era of coaching and how they're approaching it now. And maybe that's more management as well. But if you're Bill Belichick and you're tired of the politics, the last thing you want to do then is go to college where anything you say or any practice that is too hard, you could lose 5 guys at the drop of a hat because they don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's fascinating. It's the whole psychology. Belichick's like changed. I don't know if he's changed because we've talked about some of this stuff before, but I think it's just wild. He gets you thinking about a lot of these things. Like, why is he doing this? And then on top of it, I do think the college game is so unique right now. It's so different to us. But obviously, you get the Frosts and the Rich Rods and the Mullins and I'll say it again. I've been saying it for really the last 80 minutes. The pool of coaches that you are like all in on, that you know a lot about, that you think you can win with, is not deep. Now, you can always take a chance. And to Austin's point, there are a lot of good coaches out there. You know, there are a lot of good coaches that people, for whatever reason, just they don't take that chance on, or it takes longer, and then you finally find them. I mean, Arkansas State's been very good for a long time, and they've been like this school that has grown into like a stepping stone for so many coaches, like good coaches, all right, that have been there. They got a good knack for finding that guy, and they know they're going to eventually move on. So these guys are out there, but the pool that you know, the names that you know, isn't very big. And the Jags might find that out this offseason as well. Hey, let's do this. Take a time out here on the show. Brent Austen Show from FSCJ as we get ready for the for Integra High School 9-12 Invitational. When we come back, I want to ask you about all these burglaries at star players' homes and what's to be done about that, and how scary is that, really, if you're Joe Burrow and everybody else. We got a big weekend ahead with this tournament on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network, and also we'll have Action Sports Jacks Primetime, of course, where we recap everything from Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 on Fox 30, 11:30 on CBS 47. The Brent Austen Show rolls on right after this on a Thursday, almost halfway through, on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Burgers or breakfast, you can get it all at Whataburger. Try something new on the menu or an all-time favorite like the Whataburger Patty Melt.
And now you can have breakfast here at Whataburger 12 hours a day, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Menu items like the bacon taquito, sausage taquito, honey butter chicken biscuit. Whether you work the late night shift, just want a snack early in the morning to get your day started, or a little pick-me-up late in the morning, 12 hours a day, breakfast served, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m.
A dozen locations in Jacksonville. You can order pickup or delivery and download the Whataburger app. New rewards members get free Whataburger items when placing their first online order. Just download the app. And for us coffee drinkers, Whataburger has all new hot coffee and iced coffee too. Satisfy that coffee craving at Whataburger 24/7, and it comes in a variety of flavors. Burgers, breakfast, coffee, and so much more. Whataburger, just like you like it.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices her pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com. Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, welcome back here to the Brent Austen Show. One of the matchups we have today, this one will be at 4 o'clock, is Nice against University Christian. That will be at the Fortegra High School 9-12 Basketball Invitational. 4 games to start the day here today, 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. And I love a good day of basketball. Tomorrow we'll have the same thing, a couple more games, and then the semifinal games will be at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then we'll have 4 more games coming up on Saturday here at FSCJ. Now, we're only broadcasting 2 of them, the third place game at 5 o'clock and the championship game at 7:15. So all in all, 12-game weekend here at the Fortegra High School 9-12 Basketball Invitational. We'll have 10 of the games on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network, and we're getting ready for the first slate here on this Thursday, coming up at 2 o'clock today, which is shortly after our show. 1 o'clock, by the way, today. We will have the locker room, in case you missed any of the sound from gathered yesterday down at Jags headquarters. Brian Thomas Jr. had some interesting comments. Maybe we'll talk about that in just a moment. And also at 1:30, Jags Report live replay from String Sports Brewery in Jax Beach. Trayvon Walker was our guest tonight. Evan Ingram was scheduled to be our guest. I just got word that that's probably going to change. So now we're looking at an audible here in terms of a guest tonight at String Sports Brewery in Springfield. So we're piecing that together right in the middle of the show, along with the basketball tournament, along with the show. You know how it goes, Austin. So if you see me rolling my eyes in commercial break, that's probably why.
Man, can't believe Evan Ingram did you dirty like that, Brent. Sorry to hear it.
He wouldn't either. He's got something. Nah, he's definitely not that. Ingram wouldn't do us dirty. That's why. So you always know that. It just, but we already had like a whole rundown of stuff in, ready to roll, and now we have to pivot that out here. Thankfully, early enough time. We've done it later than this in the past. Let's just say we've got plenty of time until 7 o'clock tonight on the show. So we'll have that for you tonight from String Sports Brewery in Springfield. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane. Austin on the road for a couple of days in Tampa. I was on the road earlier this week. We're passing in the wind. Big thanks to Casey Kurtz. He's in today as well. Unfortunately, Jason Hamby had to go up to Georgia for a funeral. I think he'll be scheduled back tomorrow here on the show as well. So a lot happening here with us in the middle of December. Hopefully you're doing pretty well and doing better than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow actually has had a very nice season. Joe Burrow's got an interesting style. Those are the good things. Joe Burrow's record for the Bengals, not so good this year. And then on Monday, he goes away to play a Monday Night Football game. And, of course, everybody knows where you are. And his home gets burglarized.
Yeah.
This is unsettling if you're those guys, right? I mean, my guess, Austin, is so many of these players live in, first of all, very large homes, but also usually in like gated communities and pretty well protected areas. Yeah. So it's not the first time we're seeing this a little bit. Was Mahomes, I think, was a victim of this either earlier this year, I believe it was. So I guess how unsettling is that as a player, right? I mean, you're leaving family, and not everybody's situation you're leaving family, but in a lot of situations leaving family, and then also leaving your home and valuables and other things, and everybody knows where you are pretty much. Maybe not at all times, but a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unsettling, right? Because we talked about this probably a couple weeks ago now, where it was like was it the cartel, right? Kind of came out and said the NFL came out and said that like they have something to do with all these break-ins and everything. Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about that part of it. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm sure this is all kind of plays hand in hand here a little bit. So definitely a scary ordeal, right? I mean, I guess you can take the Tua Tagovailoa approach now and say like, hey, you guys can come over to my house if you want, but I got armed security waiting, so best of luck to you. But that's what it's kind of turning into now, because one of the downsides really of playing in the National Football League is, well, it's going to be televised when you're not going to be at home. And I think people are taking advantage of that. So I think the only solution right now has to be armed security. Unfortunately, not everyone can probably afford armed security. Not everyone's making Tua Tagovailoa money, Joe Burrow type of money. This might have to come more on the NFL to say like, hey, what kind of things can you do for these players to help them out a little bit? Because, well, this kind of falls into your jurisdiction as well.
Yeah, I don't know what you can do. I don't know if that's a league problem, if that's a shield problem, a team problem, or just a circumstantial thing that could happen, might happen, I don't know how I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer from the NFL. I mean, obviously they put people on alert a little bit when they did send that message, so at least you've got that. But I don't know what they can do. I mean, listen, Burrow's making a lot of money. Tua's making a lot of money. If you're making that kind of money, you can afford extra security if you're going away for the day. Like, there's no doubt about it. But, I mean, whether you're home or not, this is still unsettling whether it happens to anybody. It doesn't have to be a star athlete. It's an unsettling deal to get burglarized, right? An invasion of privacy. Whether it's somebody recently we're reading in our neighborhood that had stuff stolen out of their vehicle, and there was a run of people stealing things out of vehicles, like in the neighborhood. Or, in this instance, having your home burglarized. I mean, a lot of people have to deal with this. A lot of people don't have $55 million a year to be able to afford security to maybe help them feel better about it. But the one difference between everybody and these guys is, first of all, they've got money. They probably have big houses and things in their house that are of value. And you also know where they are. Like, you know when they're home, like, and not home in this instance. So, and I wonder if for some of these guys, Joe Burrow now going down another away game or the next away game, or other big high-profile athletes, you start to think about it. And does it distract you a little bit, right? Does it put you in a bad place as you're trying to go do your job to the best of your ability, which is highly paid and also highly scrutinized?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, once again, to having the right approach, higher armed security. I mean, you can definitely afford it for a couple of nights when you're gone. That might be where we're at now. I'm not saying it's right, but like, at least I feel like you'd have the peace of mind knowing I'm probably going to be safe, with some guys with assault rifles staying on the porch, rocking bulletproof vests. Brent, are we allowed to go to the bullpen here with residential expert and Joe Burrow, Casey Kurtz here? Because what's the whole story of, like, who discovered that his house is getting broken into? Because that's kind of making its rounds as well.
I don't know her name, but I think she's
friend,
is she
right?
a model? Olivia Pontone, okay. I think is that, and so she was house sitting. So apparently, house sitting. I don't know. Like, I guess that's being talked about.
Supermodel, by the way, a supermodel, Brent. Hey, Brent, a supermodel, by the way.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
Yeah, supermodel.
Who works for Burrow. And so the story is, arrived at his house to discover the break-in. So the break-in had already happened. And she said on the call, the 911 call, it's completely messed up. What else? Then Burrow's mom called as well. So on the 911 call. But Yeah, I don't know that part of it. I don't know that part of the story. I don't want to. I don't really know who she is until this came up.
I'll tell you who she is.
Maybe Casey does know more. Maybe Casey has more.
Casey, hey, go ahead and explain why Brent Martineau should always keep his mouth shut about what Joe Burrow wears and the swag that Joe Burrow brings to the NFL. Because if you got supermodels house sitting for you, I think you're doing all right.
Yeah, it's pretty much a wrap on that front for the supermodel thing. But yeah, I don't think he needs Brent criticizing anything he's doing if he's running with supermodels as security.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe people were just after that outfit.
I'm just saying, Brent, is there any more of a power flex than having supermodels come over and house it for you? Come on, man. Like, hey, nobody got hurt, thankfully. I'm sure some things they got stolen, but thankfully nobody got hurt, so we can joke about it a little bit. Kind of a power move by Joe Burrow.
I'll tell you what, man, there's some, I don't know if you feel this way, because you played in the league, right? And Casey knows this from the autograph world or anything else, and we know this just in general. But I can't get over how big the NFL QB is now from a star standpoint. And I'm not telling you it doesn't make sense. I can see all of it, but it's a hard, Joe Namath was huge back in the day. Now, that was before my time, but he was obviously huge. So it's not just a social media thing. You can be a star athlete and transcend sports. We have that from time to time. But in general, how big the quarterback is now in the NFL, especially a good one that's been paid, one that's done some things, it's unbelievable. From the fashion part of it, but to also the dating part of it, to the impact that you have, like Mahomes owning teams, right, and being a part of ownership of teams. And maybe it's not just quarterback. I mean, look at Travis Kelce right now with Taylor Swift. I mean, this power couple coming from the NFL and obviously the glitz and glamour of the music industry. And that's where we saw the stars, right? The Taylor Swifts of the world. That's the TMZ stuff. Now TMZ is covering quarterbacks like they cover actors, actresses, and musicians, because that's how big they are. And it's just mind-boggling to me how we got here. It didn't feel that way when you played, Austin. Who was the biggest star? It would have been Brady, would have been a Manning, would have been an Aaron Rodgers, right? That was just 12 years ago. But I don't feel like we were talking about their football prowess. We weren't talking about them at the Met Gala and, in fashion shows and as
Reggie
vice
Bush
president
there,
candidates.
Reggie Bush dated Kim Kardashian.
Okay. Yeah, so you had some of that. You had some of that. So, you had that was in Detroit, right?
Yeah. I was like, what was that relationship like?
But I think
I had to know, dude. I was Action Sports Jackson when I was in Action Sports Jackson. I'm like, hey, Reggie Bush, tell us about Kim Kardashian. What was that like?
But you played with so also there you had Stafford, right? But he wasn't any of that. Now he still kind of isn't that even out in L.A. But
who was kind of like that? Was Jay Cutler, because he was dating.
Was he really?
And I could really care less. I forgot who he dated. Casey, feel free to chime in here. I think she's on The Hills, maybe. She's on some MTV
Kristen
show.
Cavallari.
Yeah. And I remember everyone was making a big deal about it. And then she came to we had a player family luncheon. Wasn't gonna bring my mom. But so I just brought myself. But he brought Kristen, and the only thing I remember from her, wow, she's really, really short. That's all I remember. I wasn't oh, it's Kristen Cavallari. No, I'm just wow, this girl is extremely short, but cool.
Yeah, it's I love that Casey knew that right away. Very good job by Casey. I would have never even known where to Google it.
No, but she was kind of a thing for a while, I feel like.
But you know what I'm saying? The star, maybe you had a guy or two, but this is more. This is even in Jacksonville, right? Trevor Lawrence is so big in Jacksonville. When they have the baby or when it's going to be news. I was thinking about this the other day. It was just well, that's going to be news. That'll be the next time we hear about Trevor Lawrence. We had on the show yesterday, he put a post on on Instagram, and it's okay, that's news.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, anything he does is news. And I guess around Peyton Manning for 20 years, anything he did in Indianapolis was news. If he went here, if he went there, if he did that. So it's a little bit the nature. But the one that got me on this is really Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers every Tuesday going on McAfee. What he's been able to do to inflate that show even and get people all locked in. How much power it seems like he's had at times, or how much we think he has. And then on top of it, when the idea of him started to happen about running for vice president, it wasn't that far-fetched to me. It was
really
like,
wasn't.
This is where we're at.
Yeah.
Like, this was not that far-fetched to me. That alone, Austin says, wow, we've come a crazy long way in terms of the stardom of the NFL.
No, you're not wrong. And Brent, be honest here. Is the Action News Jax chopper going to be outside the hospital when Trevor Lawrence carries the baby for the first time into the vehicle to take it home?
I hope not. I hope not, for their sake.
Brent, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
so. We don't have the chopper anymore, so that helps. But it could be a drone.
You guys
I guess
lost
is
the
what
chopper?
I'm getting at. Oh, we haven't had the chopper for a while now. Yeah,
Budget
you
cuts or
can do
what?
drone stuff. Probably. We had to afford you.
Oh, yeah. Well, we couldn't do it on the radio side, so okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but I was thinking. It's funny you said it. I was thinking about how we are that entertainment part of it. I think, like when Bortles was the quarterback,
Barstool.
I don't feel like everything made, but because he was single, like not everything's going to make the news. But I think because Trevor is married, right? And so you had the whole thing with the toaster and the fans, and then like the next thing they do, they're like the royal couple in Jacksonville, right? I mean, that's what they kind of are. And so she, they get pregnant, and then so all of that is going to be a thing. Now, we still talk about like former Jags players who sell their house or buy another house, and Bortles is mentioned when he does things like that. So again, there's just this level of like, okay, some of it's normal because they're high-profile people, and then the other edge of it is like, my goodness, these guys are so powerful in the NFL. The star player in the NFL is as powerful of an athlete as I feel like we've seen in numbers. You always would have, like, Michael Jordan was obviously a powerful athlete, right? I mean, you've got these one-offs, but like, do you feel like the NBA, which is filled with stars, carries as much power as the NFL star? I guess is what I'm getting at. I don't watch the NBA as closely. I obviously know who the stars are, but I don't feel like they have as much influence as the NFL star player right now. And I might be wrong about that.
Yes and no. Like, how many NFL players?
Exception of LeBron, by the way. LeBron
I was going to
does.
say, how many NFL players can star in feature movies featuring themselves? Or how many NFL players? You know what I mean? Like, Giannis has his own movie. Obviously, LeBron had the Space Jam thing. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad call, Brent, but I think it's more comparable than you give it credit for. But also, I think for whatever reason, like, I don't know. See, it's funny, right? Because we talked about Mike Tyson a couple weeks ago, obviously, with the whole Jake Paul thing. It seemed like there was a time when it seemed like the boxers and everything may have been like the highest profile athletes. Like, it was almost like FOMO if you're a celebrity, like where you had to be like ringside to watch a Mike Tyson fight or something. And like, it's still like that a little bit, but I think it's changed over the years. And now, it seems like the quarterback, the tight end and Travis Kelce has kind of overtaken that, and it's like all eyes on them. So, I mean, really, I think this is kind of the Taylor Swift effect more than anything.
Yeah, that does have a lot. You're right. And by the way, the basketball star is global. We definitely don't feel this in baseball, right? I'm sure Ohtani comes with a lot of power, but we don't feel it in baseball. We don't feel it in hockey. Basketball, you do kind of. Basketball is one of those things. It's always been about the star player anyway, so they magnify that. The organizations do. Their salaries are huge. Huge salaries in the NBA, which I think goes along with this. There's a common theme here. Plus, they're global. And unique. I mean, it's really.
Brent,
they are the stars of the stars.
The baseball players now, it's different, I'm sure. But like back in the day when you had Derek Jeter doing his thing, you had Alex Rodriguez. Like, there's some dudes out there in the spotlight.
Well, You're right. I just don't think they're as numerous.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you some stars haven't been there and transcend. Like, but even Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's a great player, a guy that maybe who could transcend. You don't know it. You don't know anything about his personal life or what he's doing right now in the off season or when he shows up on a red car. Maybe they do in Philly, they cover it, but we don't. Like, that's not all over the place. The Jeter stuff was New York. The Rodriguez stuff ended up being New York. And honestly, I think their relationships with women kind of played a big role.
That's what I'm saying, man. You're hanging out with Madonna? Like, come on now.
That's right. And some of that was like at the tail end of their career, or even after their career, that they almost got inflated more, especially Rodriguez, when it came to those storylines. So it's just wild to me how powerful they all are. But I would say one other thing about this just crossed my mind as we're talking about it. And this is something I don't think that gets talked about enough because I don't know how to measure it. But sports are just so much bigger in 2024 than they even were in 2010, in 2002, in 1995. Like, sports are such a part of what we do, kind of who we are. Now, not everybody. There are some people that have no clue what sports are going on, but there are a lot of people that do. And the gambling part of this makes you tune into it. The numbers are incredible, especially in the NFL. So along with that power and the money and the branding, well, we've seen a gradual growth because of just the eyeballs on the sport. So that kind of adds to all of this. But I just don't know if anybody would have guessed in 2005 how big our sports culture in the United States would be right now. And so much of that has to do with some fantasy football, but a lot of it in the NFL stuff has to do with the gambling and maybe even sports in general. But it has us locked into all these games, Christmas Day games, not just an NBA thing anymore. It'll be the NFL. And even the college game has gone that way. The numbers they'll do for this college football playoff are going to be unbelievable, which makes these guys' brands coming out of college already something where you had to get to the NFL to kind of know a guy's brand. Now, you don't have to do that. You can know a guy's brand at 19, 20 years old, quite frankly. You used to do that with just the Tebows of the world. That was it. There was or a Reggie Bush. Not anymore. You can do that with like 20 different guys across the college football world.
So I'll say this. Like, I agree. Like, it's never been bigger just because, you know, the way that we can access the news now and information, like, it's everywhere, right? There's apps. Every single game is on TV for your viewing pleasure. Back in the day when I was a kid, like, we only had a couple channels and like you're at the mercy of what was on TV. Like, I didn't have cable. But we say that, but I think, like, looking back at my, you know, adult life and my childhood, to me, though, the biggest story ever in sports, I want to see if you can guess it, the biggest story ever in sports, where it almost like it combined sports and pop culture and it would not go away. It was everywhere, no matter what channel you were on, so much so that it's still kind of talked about to this day a little bit. Actually happened like in the 90s, I remember, when I was really young. And, you know, like, there's very few moments in my life that I remember, like, exactly where I was, you know, like in the early 90s. Like, you know, obviously I remember the Twin Towers going down. I was in school. The teacher pulled it up on TV. Like, I remember that. But I also remember this happened before then, where this event happened. I remember exactly where I was. I remember people talking about it. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And, like, the world gravitated towards it.
That was OJ?
Nailed it, yep.
Yeah, and really, that's a great thought. Now, they made 30 for 30s for this for a reason about this, and movies and documentaries and everything else. But it's really a good thought on this conversation because if you've seen the 30 for 30, and now I forget, like, the Knicks were playing that night, right?
There was
like
PGA
I think a World Series
golf tournament, I think.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on, like, at the same time that also. So there were eyes on sports, to your point. Like, there were those big events happening, and I forget the number of events that were going on, but that's one of the documentaries out there, and it's really pretty good. And so I think you're right. You had sports star, actually actor, so Hollywood star, combined with sports going on. And then before TMZ existed, this would have fit the model, right? Yeah. Where everybody wants to know. And then you also had, like, two things playing out live. I mean,
Brent, it was that, but it was also
killed,
the trial.
but also
like,
there was a chase.
Trial, Brent. Like, I was like, I don't know. I think I was maybe 7 or 8, and I remember a dude by the name of Kato Caitlin. I don't even know who the guy is. I remember his long hair, though. I remember, like, watching the updates. Like, I don't know who Kato Kalin is, but I could, if I was going to go to the police shop right now, I could give you a caricature. Like I could tell you what to draw, and I guarantee you the picture will come up with Kato Kalin. Like I remember exactly what he looks like and everything. It's crazy.
It's really a good. And now listen, I miss a lot of these things. I swing and miss, and you guys might already know it. But like, so I know there are a million things on like the OJ stuff, right? Documentaries, movies, etc. My guess is there's one already out there about everything you just talked about, how that changed, how that changed everything going forward. And like you might be able to argue. And again, maybe somebody already has, I just don't know, that it argued all these damn court TV shows that are on all day and the ratings, right? And how we almost like glorify that because we got to see that unfold and we're like, is that where, I mean, there are already court shows on, like in terms of our primetime lineup, like the, now the NCISs and the CSIs, did that spur a bunch of those shows to be like, hey, people are really interested in this kind of stuff based on that? Also, that was right around the advent and the infancy of reality TV. Like, that was reality TV. Yeah. That was a chase. That was a plot played out in front of our eyes for months and months with someone everybody was interested in because it was so high profile. So, again, these things might already be, but not just the sports part of that, the day, the trial, but also kind of where life took us and how we view things and how we are almost entertained. That might have been the thing that sparked a lot of this, or at least was one of the catalysts for
Listen,
it.
I mean, I've never seen it. I'm sure it's out there as well. But, like, I also think, like, in terms of comedy, man, like, they kind of pushed boundaries of comedy because, like, the whole OJ glove thing, like, kind of became, like, you know, an SNL dream. Like, you know, I remember watching countless times like, that they would make fun of it and everything. And, like, okay, I get it. But keep in mind, like, somebody got murdered. Like, we don't maybe know who did it, but like somebody lost their life. And like, it was wild how, I don't want to say all of society, but like I always remember like there was like a lot of jokes around it, which was kind of looking back at it now, kind of messed up. Like, I mean, yeah, we make fun of it still to this day, but that was always kind of a different thing I thought too, in terms of comedy of how you approach that subject.
Yeah, pretty wild. Like, I don't know. I don't know how we even got on this to get, but it there's got to be something out there on all these different things. And like, we're not the first ones to think about this was the catalyst for all of it. But
bring it back full circle though, Brent, because we got on it talking about, you know, just athletes and celebrities and, you know, they're bigger than ever, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce and everything. And it's like, yeah, I agree with you. I think as a whole, it's definitely bigger than ever. But don't forget about how big O.J. Simpson was, man, back in the 90s.
Yeah, and I think it is fair to point out there have been plenty of athletes over time that have been huge. Before the social media world and before maybe even sports even ticked up another notch for our eyeballs and we're being able to find it before this era. And you mentioned it. You mentioned the OJ thing, but you can go back to so many others. Muhammad Ali, you can go all the way back to Babe Ruth. You can go back to Joe Namath in this respect. So it's always been a thing. Just feel like it's a little bit more numerous of a thing now. And like, I would say this to kind of finish it up. I don't think Joe Burrow or Travis Kelce are transcendent superstars 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I think that's like LeBron is. LeBron would be. Ohtani would be. Like, you know, those kind of guys would be. But I don't know if Burrow and like a Travis Kelce are. I think that's where we've gone. We've elevated. That's how wide the range of superstar now is. Those guys now even fit in it based on what they're wearing to a football game and of course who they're dating.
Or who's house sitting.
But I'm not sure. Who's house sitting?
I mean,
that's the question. Like, hey, 25 years ago, would Taylor Swift even give Travis Kelce any time?
Dude, I mean, listen, it's funny. Every time that I talk to my best friend, Alex Price, he lives in Wisconsin, and I've shared this story many times before, how we were in the middle of the bar in Kansas City. I was getting ready to get cut. Travis Kelce's a rookie. He leaves, his tab's open, so we get a couple bottles off Travis Kelce's tab. And we always go back to that night because we always say, like, imagine that guy that we were partying with that night. Just, you know, this giant bro-y dude. a guy who I thought wouldn't really amount to much in the NFL because I thought he had the worst attitude ever. I don't think he's going to make it. I thought he was going to burn out. And to see where he's at now and how he's perceived by really the world, it's something that like me or my best friend can't fathom, man. It's like, it's crazy. Like in those, because I mean, yeah, it was whatever, 8-9 years ago, but like still it's wild how we're here now. It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. And I guess that's kind of where that's where I got to too. And we're talking about Joe Burrow's house sitter and other things. It's nuts. Let's just take time out. FSCJ, we are live from Austin's out in Tampa. He's cornering a fight coming up this weekend in Tampa, so keep our eye on that. And Trayvon Walker was at Jags Report Live on Monday night. Who's going to be at Jaguars All Access tonight? Still working on that. We had to call an audible, so we'll get into that. But we will have Spring Sports Brewery. We'll be there at Springfield tonight for Jaguars All Access on Fox 30. And we do plan to have a guest. So come on out and visit with us if you're not at this high school basketball tournament here at FSCJ. We'll be right back. The noon hour right around the corner.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at NimnickBuickGMC.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade.
Another exciting week of basketball for the Ospreys of North Florida, both at home and on the road. The men's basketball team started off the week on Thursday at home with a 115-83 win over Warner. It was a huge night for Ospreys freshman Josh Harris, who dropped 26 on 11 of 14 shooting to go along with his 14 boards in 27 minutes. Then on Saturday, the Ospreys traveled to Statesboro to take on Georgia Southern. UNF found themselves down 17 in the second half, but came storming back to force overtime. Unfortunately, the Ospreys couldn't complete the full comeback as they fall 93-91. Both the men and the women are back at UNF Arena this week as the men take on UNC Greensboro and the women take on UNC Asheville. Both games are on Saturday. And remember, you can find schedules, results, tickets, and more at UNFOspreys.com.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle. Built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at BozartBuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozart approved.
New to town or always been in town, everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martineaus get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza. Some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're going to love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now, you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us, and at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations, Donato's Pizza, every piece is important.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, welcome you back in another game that we're going to feature tonight on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. As we're getting ready for this thing to get going at 2 o'clock, this game will be at 6 o'clock. So for Fortegra High School 9-12 basketball invitational, it's the Bulls, Bulldogs, and the Creekside Knights, 2 of the 8 teams that are here, and they will be playing today. And then, of course, we'll get the semifinals tomorrow. Everybody's guaranteed 3 games, but the semifinals tomorrow night, 6 and 8 o'clock, and then championship game 7:15 will crown a winner. 7th annual Fortegra High School 9-12. You can tell, talking to a lot of the coaches and the basketball programs, how much this means to be a part of this tournament. And there are 8 schools that are a part of it, and the kick tips off at 2 o'clock right here at FSCJ. Behind me, they're starting to make all of it happen for the festivities. Hosting a big party, basically, is what these things are, from the Dream 18 golf tournament to this Fortegra High School 9-12 invitational. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane. Austin's out in Tampa as he's getting set to corner his fighter this weekend in Tampa. And also, what is that like, man? Like, what's the how different is that for you to be in the corner? Like, I always joke that I'm in your corner, but I've never literally been in your corner.
Yeah.
So, like, when I think of the corner guy, all I do is think of Rocky.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might have lost him for a second. All right. Yeah. You guys got me back? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you're all right.
To be truthful about it, it's one of the most stressful things that you can ever do. I always say that I'm far more stressed cornering somebody than I am fighting, because when I fight, like, I control my outcome, right? Like, yes, my coaches are in my ear and everything, but at the end of the day, it comes down to me performing and executing a game plan, and shining under the bright lights. When you corner somebody, like, yes, you can give them advice and everything, but it's up to them, right? So it's really out of your control. Like, you can try to influence it, but at the end of the day, they have to go do it for themselves. So that's always a stressful thing, because, you want to see the people you care about have success. But also, like, I've been around the game long enough now where, whether it's good or bad, like, we're always going to be there for each other. And then that's kind of, where the family aspect comes into it a little bit. But for me, like, I think what makes a good cornerman is understanding what your job truly is, and the reason that I'm in Ramon's corner is because I'm the guy that's going to kind of bring, the excitement, going to bring all the, all the emotions down a little bit and keep everybody grounded. That's kind of what I bring to the corner. Like, if you watch the fight, hopefully, I think it's gonna be like around 7:30. And sometimes they show the cornermen do their thing. So what my job is gonna be is, if Ramon doesn't knock his guy out in the first round, he comes back to the stool. My first job is gonna be, okay, I have to get him calm and I have to make sure that he's having a full recovery. So I'm the guy that's gonna be telling him, like, how to breathe, to relax a little bit. And that'll be about like a 20-second process. And then the other coaches with the game plan will come in and kind of speak their truth a little bit. So I'm more of just making sure, he's present, he's ready to roll. And then if I see something obviously going on in the fight, I can say something as well. But my job is more to bring him back down to neutral between rounds.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. You got to have a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So, who else is? How many are in a corner? How many can be in a corner?
So in the UFC, because I mean every promotion is different. In the UFC, you can have 3 cornermen unless you're going to fight for a title, or I want to say maybe a main event. Then you can have 4 cornermen. So he's going to have, and it's wild because we're all kind of from different parts, right? So he's going to have one cornerman who's from Orlando, who's more of like the grappling guy, more of like the wrestling jiu-jitsu type of guy. He's going to have another guy who's like his striking coach, his boxing coach. And then, he's going to have one of his teammates being me. So we all bring something, unique to the table, if you will. And I think just obviously me having the fight experience, having been in there myself before, I can really, bring him that and kind of make him feel at ease a little bit.
So he's got like an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and a psychologist.
There you go. Yeah. That's a great way to put it, Brent.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, and I mean that's probably an important thing to pick, right? Like in terms of what you want in there.
Yeah.
And you've had a bunch of different fights. You haven't always had the same people in there. Some people are probably better than other people, and then other fighters want to hear certain things than others, probably, right? I've watched more and more fights, and like I kind of think when they do show the corner stuff, I get fascinated at times of. Man, I wonder if this guy really wants all this stuff being said to him at the moment. He looks like he's just not even listening to any of it. Now, you want to be able to coach it up. You got to be able to coach it up, and they got to be able to hear what they need to hear. But I do wonder about that aspect of it. If there's a right time to just not say anything, and then there's other stuff where, hey, you got to coach it up because you got however many seconds just to make sure you coach it up and your guy hears it.
Brent, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Can you still hear me? Because I can't hear you anymore. Your audio went out for that last bit there, so I'm not sure what you're saying. I mean, Casey, you still there? Can you hear me? Can the stream hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Did Brent's mic just go out for something, or can you guys hear Brent as well?
Nah, Brent's very much just sitting there. I don't know what's going on with Brent.
Okay, yeah.
I heard Brent.
I
don't know what's going on with Brent.
I think Brent might be having some mic issues.
Hey, Brent, just for fun, you know what's going on?
Oh, okay, yeah. So Brent can't hear at all. Okay, and I can't hear Brent. So yeah, Casey, go and bring it in if you want to bring it in. But I'm not sure what he was saying there. It sounded like it was going to be good. Unfortunately, couldn't make out what he was saying, but. It's wild because your cornermen are a big thing, but also just how you treat fight week in general is a big thing, right? Especially my circumstance is different because I don't have to cut weight, but Ramon is cutting weight and everything. So I think it's a big deal of who you really surround yourself with as well. Like he's gonna have his son here, he's gonna have his girl here as well, and a lot of fighters handle things differently. I think there's some fighters out there that. They want to bring their family around and kind of have like that sense of ease and just, familiarity, if you will. And there's some fighters out there that don't want anybody, they just kind of want to be left to their own devices because it's like, all right, I'm getting ready to go to war and everything. Like I can't have everybody around me. I'm not saying one way is right, one way is wrong. It's just everyone's wired a little differently. I will say from my own standpoint, having my son there for the first time for my last fight, was one of the biggest differences, I think. And he'll be there at my next one as well, because he does kind of provide me a little sense of calm, but also he does provide me the fact of like, that's why I'm fighting, like that's who I'm doing it for. I think sometimes, like we want to say, and this is me in the past, that we just want to do it for ourselves, right? We want to prove it to ourselves. We want to fight for ourselves. But I think the way that we're wired as human beings, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I think that sometimes we can quit on ourselves more than we'd ever quit on someone that we care about. And that to me, I think makes all the difference in the world. So having my son there with me for fight week makes the biggest difference for me, but I get it. It's not for everybody. Welcome back, Brent.
Yeah, thanks. That's a little disconcerting that my Wi-Fi just went out for a minute as we're about to do 8 hours of basketball games here at FSCJ.
Do you want me to do it from Vegas? Or do you want me to do it from Tampa, Brent? You want to have the stream up and I'll call from the hotel room here?
These are just real-time thoughts going through my mind, okay? Speaking of real-time thoughts, as you explain a corner and everything else, which is just wild. So anyway, that's I think it's fascinating, the whole psychology of it. So we appreciate you sharing some more on that. We'll see how it goes. And I can't understand that you were saying it makes you more nervous, puts you in a different way. That's typical. Like that's a parental thing as you watch your kids play sports or do anything. That's a coach thing. I think a lot of coaches feel more nervous. You can't control. When you can't control stuff, and I guess in that sense, we're all type A to some degree, and some more than others. But when you can't control stuff, man, it makes you a little more unsettled. Yeah. Much like today, for me, this broadcast, I can't control the damn Wi-Fi. So now, hey, listen, the one thing about it is I've gotten used to that here on the show, so I'm not as unsettled as I will be from 2 to 10 when we do these.
Oh, yeah, bro. Hey, what happened? Did we skip on an interview? Did an interview not go through? Oh, dude, we've been there a million times. Watch us counter this and rebound and come out better than ever.
Yeah, it's funny, like when we were talking about that part, see, you don't get that in a fight. Like, you can't have that in a fight. Yeah. You played two sports, or you've done this at the highest level, but they're unique in the sense that when you made a mistake in the pass in the cage, you've really paid for it. And then it's like, it's one mistake, and it's over. Now, you've probably made some other mistakes, and you haven't paid for it. But you get a finite amount of time. The difference in the NFL is there are 60-something plays. Yeah. Now, it could come down to one or two, and you never know which one that's going to be that could change the game. Absolutely. Yep. But the crazy thing about like the NFL and about team sports specifically is I would say if you really diagnose like a defensive play for the Jags or when you played and you just pick a play, there are 11 guys, and there are probably like 8 or 9 of the guys that did right things, and there are 2 or 3 that could have done better things. That's even when a play goes right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you're like, well, and so if half of the guys do their job well, you might give up 8 yards and a first down. So it's not like see you later, TKO, knocked out. What a difference it is, like in the fighting game, where if you do make that mistake, you don't have anybody to pick you up. Number one, even your corner can't help that, and number two, it could be over just like that.
No, you're not wrong, and Brent, especially at heavyweight, right, where it's so finite, right? Because like even you have multiple plays in football, but it even comes down to being so finite where it's like if you take a false step or if you have the bad hand placement on a play, like you're going to have 10 other guys that are probably going to have your back and it's going to be okay. And no one's going to even talk about it. PFF's probably going to miss it and not even give you a bad grade. But you make one false step. You have your hand an inch down from your ear, something like that. It makes all the difference in the world. And, I think that's why I'm drawn to the sport for a lot of reasons, but it's the ultimate stakes, right? And that's why I think, winning feels so damn good when you're able to win in the cage. And that's why losing, it hurts so much. But, through all those losses, and not to sound cliche or anything, but like I have learned a lot from all those losses. And I've always come out on the other side a better person for having gone through that. So I am thankful for all the trials and tribulations, man. But you're not wrong. It's not a sport for everybody when you talk about fighting, because I think a lot of people, we all make mistakes, right? It's wild how in this sport you make one mistake and it can set you on a trajectory for the rest of your life that you never really anticipated.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, just want to give folks a message and how you can help with jackspal.org. A different kind of fight, if you will. Police Athletic League of Jacksonville helping kids out in the community. And jackspal.org is the place to go. Team up with them for after-school registration. Also, a bunch of different programs. You can make donations this time of year, obviously a giving time of year, and you can help so many kids in the Jacksonville area, Northeast Florida, participate in things like after-school programs and football leagues. And speaking of fighting, boxing as well. So there are a lot of different programs programs with JaxPal. You can check them out, jaxpal.org. And we're proud to have teamed up with JaxPal here this fall with the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network and the Brent and Austen Show. And one thing, you know, we're getting toward the end of the football season, or at least a Thursday week of a Jags win, where there's not enough to complain about. When we say, hey, what the heck's going on in some of the other sports? We know what's going on in college football. We know what's going on in the college ranks with everything else. We know what's happened with Juan Soto in baseball this week, and obviously some of the hot stove action, if you will. But really, it feels like the NBA and NHL aren't talked about a bunch, at least in our circles. I know you watch a lot of the hockey, and you catch some of the NBA stuff. I love doing like the standings check this time of year because I have not been locked in on it. And so, and I will do this like once in a while, just like every week or something. I'll go look at, okay, who's doing what. So this isn't the first time I've looked at the standings, FYI, but it's a decent way to kind of check up on what's going on. And one thing's been a constant this year that's just still like eye-popping is the Cavs. The Cavs were undefeated, remember, for that long run. I think they went 15-0, and now they're 21-4. We knew the Celtics would be really good, but the number one team in the NBA right now is the Cleveland Cavs with just 4 losses. And then even in the East, all we got to do is go down the road and maybe check out a Magic game because they're right in the mix of this thing really behind the Cavs and the Celtics. So some interesting stuff going on in the NBA.
Yeah, Franz is playing really well in Orlando right now. I think they're third or fourth, I want to say, in the East. I don't have the thing in front of me.
They are third.
Third, yeah. So, yeah,
they're tied.
Boston,
yeah, like the Knicks have 10 losses, too.
Yeah, Orlando, like, listen,
the Knicks and the Heat.
I think is a testament to the type of team that they are. They lose, if not their best player in Paolo, and they don't really skip a beat at all. So Orlando's playing a good brand of football. They're a surprising team to me, being that good. But to me, the most surprising team so far is the Houston Rockets, who are,
I was going to say that
whether
too.
It's Van Fleet, whether it's Green, like they're playing very well together. They just beat Golden State last night in a nail biter. Houston's playing at a very high level. You have teams that you think are like the household teams that are going to make a run, like Minnesota. You have teams like Denver who necessarily aren't really playing up to their capabilities, I feel like, yet. And then you see now the New York Knicks with Karl Anthony Towns. That was probably the biggest, trade this offseason. They're kind of figuring out now a little bit too as well. I think it took a little while for them to kind of get used to playing with each other, but now New York's making a little bit of a run, and one of the hottest teams right now in the past 15 games has been Milwaukee Bucks. After Giannis essentially had this press conference, lost his mind, if you will, and now he's playing at an MVP type level, and Milwaukee's playing a lot better as well. A big story in terms of like the other side of things would be the New Orleans Pelicans, who are probably the worst team right now in the NBA. And what do you do with Zion Williamson, who, the guy had all the hype coming out of Duke, top overall pick, everything like that, has been playing. Injuries are mounting up now. And like, I think if you're New Orleans, you got to ask yourself, like, what do you plan on? Because I can't remember when his contract's going to be up, but like, you probably can't trade him because you're not going to get anything for him. He's always hurt. Do you just let him, you set a precedent and just cut him? Do you try to re-sign him? I'm really curious to see how New Orleans handles it with Zion because, yeah, he's a big name. He's intriguing when he's playing. He's fun to watch, but he's never out there, Brent.
Yeah, where is he on the bust list, by the way? Is this turning into Odom? Greg Oden, and not Lamar Odom, but Greg Oden. And is that where we're going with this career of Zion Williamson? Is that what we're tracking towards?
Yeah, I'm not going to quite give him the Greg Oden treatment because I think he's got a couple more games than Oden does, and like we've seen Zion when he's in, like he can be a top 5 NBA player. He has all the physical attributes, despite like how wide he is. The dude can jump out of the gym. And like he kind of developed his shot a little more too as well these past couple of years. So he's a hell of a basketball player. It's just for whatever reason, man, he can't stay healthy. So yeah, he's definitely bust potential. If not bustable right now, but hopefully he can kind of figure it out, get his body right, and get back to playing because obviously I think the game is better with him in there. And then another guy too with injuries and load management or whatever the case may be, obviously we talked about before, is Joel Embiid and Philly, where I think a lot of people expected Philly to kind of take the next step forward and be maybe one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference, and they're still kind of just, in the depths of the NBA. And it's sad when their best player might be a rookie whose claim to fame is more on TikTok than it actually is like what he does in an NBA game.
Yeah, back to Zion Williamson just for a minute. You believe he's been in the league since 2019 and 20, and he's only 24 years old. So, I mean, he's still a very young guy. And you're right. He's had some moments when he's in there. He just can't get in there. He played, by the way, so far 190 games in his 5-year career. Greg Oden, for comparison, played 105 career games. That was it. And he played 6, technically 6 NBA seasons, but 3 of them were completely missed in a row because of injury. Mm-hmm. I mean, the most he ever played in a game was his second year, when he played 61 games. And then it was 21 and 23. I mean, he missed 4 years completely with injuries, like never even suited up. So it's not there, but it kind of feels like it in a lot of respects just because of the injuries. There are signs that he's a very good player, to your point. I thought he was going to be such a cool star in the league. They've already got a ton of stars in the league, but it's been disappointing on the Zion Williamson front. I mean, he could have been really, really cool. Now, meanwhile, your other guy, you were talking about the Bucks and Giannis. The other guy in your team, John Morant, and the Grizzlies are hot right now, too. They've won 9 out of 10, and it's good to see him back because he's fun to watch.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the NBA update. Maybe we should do this as like a segment. You just give us an NBA update. How about NHL? Because you said you were watching hockey last night. Are you only watching the Detroit Red Wings, or do you watch like other teams in hockey?
I spoke on it last night. I watched the Lightning or yesterday on the show. I watched the Lightning and the Oilers. Had to get my kind of McDavid and Draisaitl fix. Kind of a boring game. Though.
This one I do have to go.
It was 1-0 or 2-1, whatever. It was a low scoring game. And
I do have to look this up.
Came back to bite me. It is what it is. But in the NHL, you still have your teams that you're accustomed to seeing. You got the Florida Panthers, are probably one of the better teams in the NHL. Which I'm convinced now it doesn't matter who's in, who's out, who the goalkeeper is. I just think of what they've done with Florida and the way that they play and their attitude. You can interchange anybody and they're still going to be successful. And I think this year is another classic example of that. You have a team like Edmonton who got off to kind of a shaky start. It was one of the best offensive teams in the league. They're kind of starting to pick things up a little bit. McDavid's starting to get to form a little more. But we talk about Connor McDavid, the best player in the NHL. Well, truth be told, for the first couple of weeks, he was not playing like it at all. And now he's finally starting to come into his own a little more. But when you talk about like some of the top teams in the NHL, there are some surprises there. Like Boston fires their coach. Now they're back, they're always there as one of the better teams. But you have teams like Minnesota they may be like the most
best team in the league
team right now, the Minnesota Wild. And then also the Jets, the Winnipeg Jets, are a really tough team right now too.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You said it. Minnesota Wild have the best overall points in the league with 42. There are looks like there are a lot of good hockey teams. Like the depth is pretty strong around the NHL, especially in that Western Conference. So, hey, a little NBA, NHL, got to catch you up on some of this stuff. We got a little baseball. We know what college football, college basketball will come into a lot of the focus here over the next couple of weeks as we flip the calendar to January and conference season as well. All right, hey, man, I'm going to let you go. We're going to have Nick Morrow join us, so you're good for the rest of the day. I think we'll see you a little bit tomorrow. I know you got weigh-in. We might see you here and there, but you got a busy day over there in Tampa.
Yeah. I think tomorrow, if you see me, it'll probably be more like towards the end of the show. It's pretty early weigh-ins, but, I got to make sure that, my fighter is going to be on weight and everything like that, so got to give him the encouragement there, man, because cutting weight, I don't recommend it for anybody, man. It's a hell of a thing, and I'm just glad I'm a heavyweight, Brent.
You have not had to worry about that at all, which is a very nice thing. All right, man. Have a good rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow from over there in Tampa on the Brent Austen Show, the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Before we hit a break and welcome in Nick Morrow from UNF in just a couple of moments, I want to tell you, hey, it's the holiday season, and why not spend it with Nimnick Buick GMC? Nobody but Nimnick. If you're looking for a better used car shopping experience, you'll find it at Nimnick Buick GMC, because they're the only Car Bravo certified dealership in town. Nobody but Nidnick. Then there are the trucks. There's the GMC Sierra like mine. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get 0.0 financing. It is back, 0.0 financing. Nobody but Nidnick. GMC, we are professional grade. Find them at Nidnick Buick GMC.com 24 hours a day, or go visit Nidnick Buick GMC in the showroom on Phillips Highway. We'll be right back on the Brent Austen Show, the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network, and live from FSCJ as we get ready for the Fortegra High School 9-12 Invitational. Those 8 teams tipping off today, and we'll have them all for you on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Building off a summer of terrific action at Southern Oaks Stadium, the Jacksonville Armada are looking forward to the future and the return of pro soccer in Northeast Florida. Season ticket reservations for MLS Next Pro are underway, and for just $100, you can lock in some great benefits when it comes to supporting the boys in blue. Those who make a reservation will have first selection options in the new Armada Stadium out east, near Jacksonville's downtown sporting complex, as well as access to supporter VIP events like stadium tours, open training sessions, and future meet and greets with players and coaches. You can make your season ticket reservations at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket. And while you're there, read the very latest on the Armada men's and women's teams in action this summer. Show your commitment to the fleet with an MLS Next Pro season ticket reservation at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket.
Welcome to Everbank Stadium. We call the stadium the bank. Here inside the Jaguars locker room, this is called the Vault. The Vault is a special place on game days. You can feel the energy and excitement as the Jaguars get ready to take the field. And Everbank has made a way for Jaguars fans to be a part of the action. Each home game, Everbank will select a winner and a guest to be a part of the Shadows. Be there up close and personal when the Jaguars leave the Vault to take the field. Not only that, the Vault Lounge provides a VIP pregame tailgate experience. High-end food, beverages, music, and more. Want a chance to be part of a VIP experience at a Jaguars game? Enter today at everbank.com/shadows, and you could find yourself in the shadows with the Jaguars.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the baker's bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices her pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
All right, there's our fourth game of the day that we've been showing you throughout the day of what games we'll have, and this one's a nightcap. Tokoi Creek comes in 6-0. Jackson Tigers, they're undefeated as well, and they're the premier program, quite frankly, here in the area in high school boys basketball, part of the Fortegra High School 9-12 Basketball Invitational on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Tips off at 2 o'clock, so we will be ready for that right here on the network. Again, find it at actionnewsjacks.com, Action News Jacks app, Action News Jacks now on your smart TV. If you got friends and family that know these basketball kids and coaches and teams from anywhere around the country, you can watch it here today on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Brent Martineau back here at FSCJ, and we went and grabbed the UNF guy.
Makes sense, right?
Absolutely. Just come across the street.
Right across the street.
You guys practice here, you said
we
yesterday.
did, yeah. So we get kicked out of our arena on Wednesday prior to commencement, and so we practice a little bit on campus at the rec center, and then we come over here too. They're great partners and always help us out, and every now and then we help them out.
I like to see that. I like to see those good working relationships. Nick Morrow, by the way, University of North Florida athletic director. And, man, we were just talking at the end about college basketball. We're really going to start getting into that. Now, you guys are already into it. We've been into it. You helped us get into it earlier because of the two big wins against the Power 4 teams in South Carolina and Georgia Tech. And the conference is off to a nice start in general. Got a lot of those kind of wins.
Right.
And Sun's going to be pretty good. You've got a doubleheader Saturday at UNF Arena with the women's and men's team. Seemed like a light week this week, which I'm assuming was because of exams.
Yeah, finals week. So we never really compete during the week during finals week, but we come out on Saturday right after commencement. And, the women play UNC Asheville, and then the men follow up with UNC Greensboro, which is actually part of the ASUN SoCon Challenge that we had this year. And Greensboro is a really solid program that's been in the NCAA tournament, so it'll be a great test, great mid-major test. And then we turn around and we go to Asheville on Tuesday, another really solid Big South program, and so that'll be a tough environment to play in. And then we finish up non-conference against Florida, who's doing okay this year.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
They're pretty good. UNC Asheville one's interesting. You got a home and home with them.
Right.
That's pretty unique out of conferences.
Yeah, so scheduling's so difficult. So a lot of times you'll see mid-majors doing that. They'll do the home and home in the same season just to be able to get that home game and then another game. And, sometimes they'll split the season. And so, like, we played Southern Illinois University Edwardsville, and we went to play Nebraska. They're coming to us next year. So sometimes we'll split the season, sometimes same season.
I like that. The schedule, a lot of quality on the schedule.
Yes,
I know those aren't household names necessarily for everybody. UNC Asheville, good basketball program. The SIU Edwardsville's of the world, good basketball. So that was a quality win up there. I think everybody will talk about the big wins, and then they'll talk about some other wins coming along the way. And I think some people think, hey, once UNF men's basketball team beat Georgia Tech and South Carolina, they should beat everybody then, right? That's not the way it works. But I thought that SIU Edwardsville win was a really good one.
You're right. We do have really quality schedule. It's really going to test us and prepare us for the conference season. And then we were just up at Georgia Southern. We opened up their brand new arena on Saturday. We were down 17, came all the way back, went up 1, and then a questionable call right at the end that then gave them free throws that tied it up, went into overtime, and we ultimately just came up short. But that's another, again, that was a second-year coach, and so he's really elevated that program there, and really they've done well. They've competed every game, and I'm excited for conference season because we've right out of the gate we host Austin Peay on January 2nd, so we actually moved that game to 2 p.m. because the Gator Bowl's that night, and so anybody with a Gator Bowl ticket can come to our game for a discounted price.
Great.
And then on the 4th, we open it, and then when we have Lipscomb. So maybe the two best teams outside of us in the conference we open up with at home. And so we're going to know real quick where we stand in the conference.
Yeah. Austin Peay, by the way, was down in Jacksonville playing in the Jacksonville Basketball Classic around Thanksgiving time. What is the conference? Obviously, long gone is Liberty for folks that haven't stayed up with the A-Sun, but there's a lot of depth in the conference. Can you guys tell? You just mentioned like Austin Peay, Lipscomb, two of the better teams in the conference. Can anybody tell right now, like, who's that team to beat, or is it really hard?
It's hard. And North Alabama just had a quality win earlier this week, and the opponent's escaping my name, and JU, they've gotten one of those Power 4 wins. And so you go down the list, like half our league has had really quality, solid road wins too. And so it's A-Sun Conference. You follow mid-major basketball if you're a basketball fan, like they're talking about the A-Sun Conference and how deep and talented, how many different teams could make a run. And really it comes down to those 3 days in March, but you got to prepare yourself for those 3 days, put yourself in the best position, get a home playoff game. And so that's what we're going to work towards.
Is there any chance, because of some of the out-of-conference wins, whether it's you guys or another team, could get the RPI enough, or it's just still a one-bid league?
It's still going to be a one-bid league because you've got to literally go into it with just, 1, 2, 3 losses. I remember Belmont, at some point in the past, 5-7 years, something like that, they had literally just 2 losses, I think. Then they went to the conference championship and lost to Murray State, or it was vice versa. And Murray State had that, and they didn't get selected. Like, it's so hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard, and people don't quite realize how difficult it is to be a mid-major basketball program, and your entire season comes down to those few days in March.
Yeah, again, like that, and it was the conversation we had when you pull off those 2 wins early in the year. It's great, and it did do a wonderful thing for
100%.
exposure. I mean, and I'll ask you about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But it's still like, in a way, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because it's the 3 days, right? It's not that it doesn't matter. You want to keep winning, you build, you get that confidence. Now you know you can beat anybody that's on your schedule, which is really nice. But again, it does come down to that doesn't help you when you need those 3 wins in March to go advance, which is the funny thing, but also the beautiful thing, I guess, about college basketball at the mid-major level. How much did that stretch help you guys out? Because I remember talking about it and sharing about it and everything. I was like, this might have been like bigger than the NCAA tournament because that was early in the year. You had everybody talking about the University of North Florida, the A-Sun. A lot of people were talking about the conference because of who else was winning games at that time. There were a couple other ones along with you guys. Like, how much did that impact, do you think, your brand?
It was big, and we ran the numbers on all the social media impact and hits on website, and how many of the the sports personalities in college basketball across the country were talking about us, and we're talking over 1 million impressions just that first week of college basketball. Between the 2 wins, the fact that we're receiving votes in the top 25, like all that stuff was great impact numbers. And we created a one-sheet infographic. Brock helped put that together and stuff, and then I took that to the board of trustees and gave it to them and be like, this is why you invest in athletics. There's nothing positive you can do on a campus that generates this kind of exposure in a 1-week period like this. And so it was great. We're going to keep those numbers, and I think, honestly, if you make that run in March, you go to the Super Bowl tournament, it's like tenfold that. Like, it's incredible numbers and exposure when you do that, and especially if you end up pulling off an upset in that. And South Carolina, they were a tournament team last year, like 25, 28 wins, tournament team, really solid program, and to open up that win, we were the talk of the nation. We were the team of the week, and just all that exposure was huge, a great spotlight. And, I mean, Driscoll alone was probably on 25 to 30 different TV, radio, interviews, podcasts, you name it. And he doesn't say no, so he was doing all of them while still preparing for that next game.
I think we had to push him off. I don't think he had time for us. I'm just kidding. He has time for everybody.
He does. He'll make time for everybody.
We get you, though. Like, listen, to get that kind of exposure, we needed Mike Mularkey to tell us how he got fired. Like, that's how we got all that exposure a couple of weeks ago. But it's great exposure in the win column, and obviously does a lot internally too for the guys on the team and the program. Give us an update on everything else. You're coming up for a fantastic fall season because at the same time while that was going on, obviously had a nice, good women's program, and then the men's team is winning the conference championship and goes to the NCAA tournament. Really had nice effort up there in the snow against Virginia Tech.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah,
sorry.
that was a blast. I mean, you're right. It's one of the better falls we've had. I mean, cross country actually kicked it off. They both finished runner-up in the conference, both finished second place, and then we ended up hosting a women's soccer playoff game for the first time since 2021, and then the men's soccer and what they did. I mean, they finished last place last year, and this year won the regular season championship, won the tournament championship, hosted that championship game. Great crowd, rushing the field afterwards. It's one of those core memories from my career, honestly. To make that kind of transition. And I had my twin boys and their friends sitting field side during the PK shootout.
That's cool.
And then rushing the field with all the students.
awesome.
Like, it's one of those memories I'll always have. And then I travel with the team to West Virginia, and it's literally giant snowflakes coming down, during warm-ups and stuff. And they have natural grass, and so you really need metal studs. And we didn't have that we don't need that down here. So we actually worked with Under Armour and Baker Sports and we got our beanies, we got field gloves, and we got metal studs sent to the hotel. So that we at least had the equipment to play in something like that. And they went toe-to-toe with them.
They did.
Like,
Right there.
We ended up losing 2-1, but we had them on their heels in the second half. They were kind of chirping at each other, and the captain's yelling at the coach to start making some substitutions. I was like, okay, if we can just get one in, like, we could take this game. And so that's what's exciting about men's soccer, too, is like you can make runs in that tournament. The Final Four right now have Vermont, Denver, Ohio State, and Marshall.
Really?
There's only one Power Four in that Final Four. And that's what's like, okay, we can make a run in that tournament. And so we just got to keep getting ourselves back there and keep investing in that program.
I did not know you could do that in men's soccer like that. That's
the parity.
Because women's soccer is not like that. Women's soccer is like
it's all
big
the blue
dogs,
bloods.
right?
Yeah, it was like Duke and North Carolina and
Stanford.
Wake Forest. Yeah, it's all the same names.
I think Santa Clara's joined that mix or
they
something
have a
like
little
that,
bit,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know. Why is that? Well,
for one, the scholarship equivalency for men's soccer is 9.9.
Okay.
And so you can't just buy all the talent and then stock it on your roster. You've got to make decisions from that standpoint. And soccer is just one of those sports, and it's so international too that you can find talent throughout the world that you can put on your team. And that's when Marshall went very heavy international, which really took them to that next level.
That's really cool. That's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. That this could be the start, and because you want to build off that. And that's like you have done. Nick's been there for a long time now, and you guys have done a lot of good things, getting the facilities where they need to go. And all of this is built toward, trying to raise that trophy, right, and get to championship.
Absolutely.
But do you have a feel like now that's starting to come to fruition a little bit, some of what soccer was able to do, the women's soccer being in that situation? You just mentioned cross country, maybe where basketball is right now, and where baseball and softball, where they've been, and other sports. I mean, I'm leaving sports out, but do you get the sense that now it's kind of getting to the point where you've built it, the facilities, the student needs, the coaches in place, and now it's trophy time?
Yeah, now we talk a lot about the process and just really trusting that you're doing the right thing and that you're very consistent with what you're trying to do. You have a vision. We had a strategic plan that we've been following. And so, it feels like it's starting to pay off. All that work we've been putting in and really sticking to the process and the vision. And now it's starting to, like, we're building more and we're able to hand out more scholarships, this roster limit situation that's coming through the NCAA. We're going to be able to invest a little bit better in that. And so it certainly feels that way. And I think going into spring, like literally every single team, spring sport has a chance.
Yeah.
They all have a chance to compete for a championship this year,
That's
which is
great.
really exciting. And that's what you want. You just want to be able to give them the resources to give yourself a chance, and then really make sure that, your student athletes you surround them with the resources and the support staff so they could reach their peak potential. Because then special things happen then.
Yeah.
And that's when you start bringing exposure to the university. And that's why you have a Division I athletic department, because you want to bring that exposure to the university.
Let sports happen. You just let sports happen after that. Once you get all that in place, now you just hope that he ends up on the right side of the scoreboard. Dick Morrow with us, athletic director at the University of North Florida, here on the Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Got some cool stuff going on with just a couple weeks ago with the USL and the women's team going to play at Hodges Stadium. Another nice bit of exposure that way, and good home base, at least for now.
Yeah, I mean, Hodges Stadium, and we've talked about this before, the economic impact we generate off Hodges Stadium. We're up to 185,000 room nights and $150 million over the past 12 years. And now we just got awarded the 2027 NCAA Track East Prelim again. We're hosting in 25, got it again in 27. We got awarded the 2027 NCAA Division II Volleyball Championships. That's going to be in the arena, but we got awarded that by the NCAA. And we got the Division II Track and Field Championships in 2028. Then we got Sporting Jacks. We're going to try and get ourselves in the mix to be a team base for the FIFA World Cup coming in 26.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot of things we're still working on to make sure that we're driving that economic impact of the city. We have conceptual designs that we're wrapping up. We've done next month about expanding Hodges Stadium and then doing improvements to the stadium itself so we can keep attracting events at a high level. We want to make sure that remains a city impact. And so Sporting Jacks is certainly going to help us do that. And it's really going to bring more attention to Hodges Stadium and what we could do for that. And we're going to work with the city to make sure that we can keep developing that facility, especially with downtown. being shut down for a couple years or being limited in what they can host, we can help fill that gap and generate the room nights and economic impact from that facility being renovated. And so we're in a perfect position to do that right now.
It's a unique setting. It's a unique venue because we don't have a lot of that. Like you go up to Georgia and you go up to different places, even other cities in Florida, I think, but around the country, you might have like these city stadiums or county stadiums that multiple people use, and others been actually pushed sometime around here to be like, hey, get one of those. We'll just all share the stadium rather than have our own facilities, and that hasn't come about. But this actually could act like that, right? I mean, again, that can seat X amount of people. Eventually need upgrades and want to make it better, but making it better makes it more attractive to other events.
Yeah, I mean, we got 9,400 seats right now, and you can add temporary seating to even expand that if you want. What's the next smallest or next biggest after that? I mean, what do you high school that's somewhere around 1,500, 2,000? Does anybody? Yes, there's a big gap.
Yeah, big gap.
They go from that, the whatever the high school facility is to us, and then downtown Everbank. So we can fill a really good void to bring in really cool events. And that's what we're trying to do is design it to do that. But we need investment into it as well.
All right. You're always so good at talking about big picture and what's going on in the college world right now.
Yeah.
Where are we? I mean, other than Bill Belichick going to coach at North Carolina, holy cow. But that's a dominating story. Take the football side of it away. Maybe some recent things that, where are we in the court settlement?
Yeah.
Where are we on like 34-man rosters like in Division I baseball with fully scholarship?
Yeah.
Like this stuff, I think that was talked about. I think when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's happening. Well, at the last check, it wasn't happening or it hadn't happened yet. Has it happened yet?
So the judge has given preliminary approval for all of it. And then there's kind of court proceedings that go on. And April 7th is when she gives final approval. It goes into effect July 1 right after that. So schools across the country are making decisions right now, assuming it's going to get final approval on April 7th. And that's kind of dangerous, assume anything with the NCAA.
But there's a belief that it's going to get
100%
done.
a belief.
Okay.
And so I've had conversations with all my head coaches over the past 2 weeks about how we're going to approach it. Are we going to opt in, opt out? Because you don't have to opt into this new model. But you have to stay exactly what the NCAA rules are today. So if baseball, there's 11.7 scholarships today. If we handed out 11.8 scholarships, we've opted in the entire athletic department. So either you can't go
not one
partially, you can't just pick basketball and do it.
Okay.
It's all or nothing.
Okay.
And so we talked about we're probably not going to opt in fall of 25, but we will be in by fall of 26. And we're going to take that 1 year runway to make sure, because a lot of people are literally just slashing student athletes off their rosters to get down under the roster limit so they can do revenue sharing for football. Because there, you got to jump in right into that right away. I mean, Bill Belichick hired. What I read is that they're boosting their NIL from $4 million to $20 million.
Yes.
Well, they're doing that through the revenue share model too. It's not just all NIL money. It's probably a combination of NIL and revenue share, so they can do that.
And that's
starting
the maximum
next year
pool for those guys is at $20 million, right?
$20.5 million is the max you can share across all your sports next year. That doesn't include the third-party NIL deals. It's the in-house NIL and revenue share. And so that's how they're all going to, all of a sudden, you're hearing all these numbers fly, out there with transfer portal and what kids are getting offered to transfer and things like that. It's because they know they got revenue share coming and they can do that. And so those things are happening. Roster limits are happening. I personally like the roster limit deal. I think it's easier to manage. I think it creates more parity across most sports, across college athletics. We're going to be able to go after a higher level athlete now, and we're going to be able to compete at a higher level because of there's only so many roster spots. Yep. If you're a Power Four, let's take golf, like Florida national champions 2 years ago, they've got 14, 15 guys on their golf team because they just stockpile a bunch of talent, and they know they're going to end up finding 5 or 6 guys who are going to be really good.
Yeah.
Well, they can't do that now. Now you get 9 roster spots. So you better make a really good selection. And you better be able to develop. And we're going to find out who the great coaches are across the country because, again, you just can't take all your resources and stockpile all the talent knowing that you're going to be able to find a good lineup.
Yeah, you and I agree on this, and I think I'm glad to hear you say it the way I think it because it's going to put a more emphasis on coaching, more emphasis on recruiting, and more emphasis on if you swing and miss on a recruit. You're going to pay for it a little bit.
You are.
Right now, there's not that at some of those places. And so that, to me, does close the gap, and it makes some of the great coaches at the lower levels maybe shine a little bit more if you can find those and build your programs the right way and develop people. So I think that's the way, if I interpret it right, that's the way this could end up helping out everybody, the state of college athletics, but definitely keep from the haves and have-nots. We'll see if it's that way, because quite frankly, the way college sports is right now, I didn't see it being this much parity right now.
Right.
And I think that surprised a lot of people.
Well, I think, there's a lot more money out there and kids are getting paid and everything, but now you're creating new dynamics that are really hard to manage, and that's going to affect team chemistry, which is obviously going to affect team performance. So, if certain guys are getting paid big money and they're not performing, the guy across the locker there is going to be, dude, you're the one making $1 million. Why aren't you performing?
Right.
Why aren't you putting up the numbers? And then all of a sudden now, do you have chemistry issues, which ultimately is going to affect performance too? And so that's a tough thing to manage. College coaches, like the amount of stuff they have to manage now is crazy.
Yeah.
So we obviously don't have that big money and the kind of issues, but now what Coach Driscoll has to deal with are agents contacting our guys, our underclassmen that are performing really high right now. Because those agents are already hitting people up.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Harris and Jalen and Josiah are all getting a bunch of DMs and different stuff from agents saying, hey, when you're ready, let's talk because I can find you a place and get you paid type of deal.
Probably not a way to police that either, right?
There's no way to police that, really. I mean,
they couldn't do it in the old days when you weren't allowed to do it. Now you're allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, Chaz Lanier, if anybody doesn't know, he's playing for Tennessee, so he was part of the UNF Ospreys program. Great young man, terrific player who we watched grow here in Jacksonville and was awesome last year for the Ospreys. And this is where I think Matthew Driscoll and you guys do a great job of hey, good for him. Like, it's not like sour grapes that he's not on anymore. It's more, hey, good for him. He got an opportunity to get paid by Tennessee, and you're obviously seeing it. He's like their leading scorer, or one of. He had 22 the other day. They're the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
And the guy played for the UNF Ospreys last year. So that's like where it can work and still be kind of cool. Like if you didn't get seen in that opportunity and develop. Yeah. I know it still stings like your program, but I actually think is there a positive effect on your program? Because people will see that and be like, wait a minute, that guy developed here and got to there. That might be an avenue for me to do the same. Much like Belichick's talking about at UNC. We'll get you ready for the NFL. Right. And this is something I've argued. Put yourself as a program that's going to develop talent and give a Chaz Lanier that opportunity. That would maybe lead to the NBA as well.
Yeah. No, there's a couple things there that you're right on. I mean, one, just so happy for Chaz. He got his UNF degree, so he's a UNF alum, which is really important. Good. So we're very happy about that.
Hope he remembers that when he goes to the NBA.
That's right. We're constantly communicating with him still and just talking about how we are extremely proud of him. And Coach Driscoll in his post-game press conference a couple of days ago talked about him. And the message boards, Tennessee message boards picked that up. It started blasting it everywhere.
Wow.
And talking about how awesome that was and how great. And now we're UNF fans and stuff, which leads me to the next thing. His success is great exposure for UNF because every broadcast they're talking about how Chaz Lanier transferred from the University of North Florida or UNF or Coach Driscoll product. That's huge exposure for us that we can't buy. So we are thankful for that. If we're going to lose them, at least we're getting that kind of exposure. And then, yes, we have to embrace this new model. It's here to stay. We can't sit here and complain about how we can't hang on to our guys for 4 years. Like, the pitch now is say, look, you come in, if you work hard, if you're coachable, 2-3 years, I'll get you to that next level. Look what I've done for Chaz and the other guys that have come through. And that's how you have to sell it now.
It is.
Because that's the reality of it. And if you can get 2 good quality years out of them, maybe 3 before they make that jump, then so be it. At least we'll get in some good quality players that we can help develop, and hopefully they do remember UNF, and that's where their roots, and that Coach Driscoll really and his staff really developed them and got them to where they are today.
Let's wrap up with this then. As we've been talking about this for a couple of years, Nick Moore, University of North Florida athletic director, all these changes. And when you talk about changes, you're like, oh, man, that doesn't help us, or that. Like, you have these feelings about where we're at, especially you. You got to look at all these sports and your programs. And obviously the basketball program kind of being right there as the front door maybe to the university with the exposure it can give. Do you think now the way things are set up, you guys can thrive? The way you've embraced what you've embraced, the way things are trending, what you've seen from the early returns, that, hey, we can manage this. We can manage this and thrive and be who we want to be and everything we want to be. Just might have gone down a little bit different and probably a windy road, quite frankly, to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a lot about that. Again, can't complain about the system. It's here to stay. So how does UNF embrace it? And how do we go and be better than our peers in our conference? Because ultimately, that's how we're getting to the tournament, and that's how we're getting that exposure. basketball or any sport for that matter. Again, I'm a big fan of the roster spots because I think that'll create more parity. I think we're going to be able to hand out more scholarships than we ever have before under this new model, which is going to make us attractive and be able to recruit at a high level. We're 7 miles from the beach. We're in a great, thriving city in Jacksonville. We're in a great location within Jacksonville. We have a great education system. So we got a lot going for us that you can't buy. So let's sell that, package it with a really good scholarship offer, and we're going to get involved in some revenue share and NIL stuff now that it's moving in-house. We've always struggled finding a third party to create a collective and do it, and it's actually now working out in our favor. We don't have that because you hear so many horror stories about collectives, like the leadership. Are they doing the right things? Are they following through the way they're supposed to? Because it's not controlled by the university.
Are they paying them?
It's all there. Are they paying them, or do they have contracts? Are they doing delivery? There's just so much messiness behind it, and then the head of those collectives thinks they're in control, and they'll start telling the athletic department what to do, and that's not how it works either. So it's actually kind of, even though we were a little bit behind on the NIL collective side, it's actually starting to work out in our favor because we're going to be able to go into that revenue share in-house NIL model to help position our teams to be better. And we're having a lot of that conversation right now. So,
all right, we got less than 60 seconds. 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock game at UNF Arena. Men's and women's basketball coming up on Saturday. Other than that, Christmas, is this kind of slow down a little bit?
It is. This is the slowest Christmas break we've had since I've been here. We have no games during that time. But we come back January 2nd, conference play, and that's when we know it's getting going.
And when the students come back, because you want those
January
crowds,
6th.
obviously.
So I'm hoping they'll come back on that Saturday and could be there for the Lipscomb game. We're going to encourage them to do that.
They're fun. By the way, Ospreys are fun to watch. Fun basketball team.
It's a great product. It's a great fan experience. People just need to come out and experience it because they always have a blast. It's a great time.
All right, man. Nick Morrow, Athletic Director of the University of North Florida. Thanks for stopping by.
I appreciate you.
Happy holidays to you. We're getting out of here. Brent Austen Show done. Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network not done. The Locker Room next. Jags Report live replay after that. And then the Fortegra High School 9-12 Invitational. That lineup starts at 2 o'clock.
If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jax 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Burgers or breakfast, you can get it all at Whataburger. Try something new on the menu or an all-time favorite like the Whataburger Patty Melt. And now you can have breakfast here at Whataburger 12 hours a day, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Menu items like the bacon taquito, sausage taquito, honey butter chicken biscuit. Whether you work the late night shift, just want a snack early in the morning to get your day started, or a little pick-me-up late in the morning, 12 hours a day, breakfast served, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m.
A dozen locations in Jacksonville. You can order pickup or delivery and download the Whataburger app. New rewards members get free Whataburger items when placing their first online order. Just download the app. And for us coffee drinkers, Whataburger has all new hot coffee and iced coffee too. Satisfy that coffee craving at Whataburger 24/7, and it comes in a variety of flavors. Burgers, breakfast, coffee, and so much more. Whataburger. just like you like it.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue.